The Philippines is going to buy green. Our government is taking the lead. The Philippines Green Public Procurement Roadmap guides the way forward by considering local business capacities, climate, environment, health, and value for money. Our government procures thousands of items every year to serve the Filipino people. When government is the single largest buyer in a market, its procurement decisions influence the direction that businesses take. Green public procurement is about buying products which are low carbon, are healthier, avoid harmful chemicals, and are manufactured through cleaner processes. They are efficient to use and consume less energy and water. At the end of life, precious materials are recycled. GPP reduces the pressure on the environment. GPP is a partnership between the government and businesses. GPP opens up new, exciting, and reliable opportunities for businesses supplying green products. This in turn makes green products also affordable for private households. A first batch of 20 product categories has been prioritized for GPP, and more will be selected over time. The priority common supplies and equipment products are multi-copy paper, toilet paper, record books, cleaners, chairs, disinfectant sprays, trash bags, liquid hand soap, detergent powder, and LED lights and bulbs. The priority non-common supplies and equipment products are computer and laptop monitors, air conditioners, vehicles, fridges and freezers, copiers, paints and varnishes, food and catering services, training hotels and facilities, toilets and urinals, and textiles such as uniforms and work clothes. The well-established public procurement processes in the Philippines, such as the PhilJobs, will ensure fairness, transparency, and open competition for the green venture. Everyone can become an active consumer of green products which save energy and water, are not harmful for health and climate, and which are recyclable.
Do you know that procurement is crucial in achieving our society's collective vision of a strongly rooted, comfortable, and secure life in the Philippines? Hello everyone, I'm Billy Bayong. Let me show you how our Procurement Policy Board innovates, adapts, and responds to our changing needs to enhance the procurement system and help the government work for us. An efficient, transparent, and competitive procurement system connects every Filipino to vital services from the government. This can help move more people out of poverty, gain access to better education, receive quality healthcare, and enjoy economic opportunities. These yield greater trust in government institutions and bring the country closer to achieving its national development goals. The Government Procurement Policy Board focuses on simplifying various processes to produce more successful procurement that contributes to the effectiveness and efficiency of the government. The board employs strategies to identify needs and implement projects. It refines and calibrates procurement policies, adjusting to emerging trend based on needs of procuring entities. It creates ways to capacitate practitioners to better manage their procurement processes, monitor effectiveness of our procurement systems, and it adapts to the times, especially during national emergencies. The GPPB has strengthened the procurement process at the earliest stage, the planning phase. The board has issued bidding rules responsive to new laws and policies set by the government. GPPB has also streamlined the bidding process through the use of technology. GPPB has introduced guidelines to ensure timely procurement, especially during a national emergency. GPPB Technical Support Office pioneered initiatives to better assist procuring entities. Simple and competitive, transparent and accountable, monitored by the people. These make for an effective procurement system, responsive to the needs of the people. The GPPB, adapting, responding, innovating for nation building. To know more about procurement, visit gppb.gov.ph.
A thrilling Thursday morning to our MLDU participants and of course to our supportive FB and YouTube live viewers who were with us since Monday po. Welcome to the fourth day of our online training for the municipal local government units on Republic Act number 9184 and its 2016 revised implementing rules and regulations batch 5. Brought to you by the Government Procurement Policy Board Technical Support Office. And again, I am Maluka Agbay of the Capacity Development Division, and I'm still your host for today's virtual activity. At this moment, may we ask our participants po to put ourselves in the holy presence of our Lord Jesus Christ. Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are truly grateful for them. Thank you for allowing us today to meet and share our knowledge and time with one another in this training. May you extend your divine wisdom to our speaker so that she would be able to impart effectively her God-given knowledge to all of us. May she be blessed as she continues to bring her expertise to people who need them. Bless the participants as well so that they would be able to glean the vital information from this activity. May you bestow your blessings after this training so that we may go out and spread what we learn in the spirit of your love and generosity. May we realize that this activity should glorify your name. Amen. All right. So again, a thrilling Thursday po. I know all of you are excited for this morning session. But before we proceed to the main course of our today's session, let us have again a very short brain exercise. I know most of you are familiar with the famous IG Games Guess the Gibberish Challenge filter. This Guess the Gibberish game refers to the nonsense word, sometimes also called the baby language. It has words that are made up but when spoken sound similar to our real word. You have to guess the random word or phrase which pops up on your screen. The aim of the challenge is to guess what the gibberish words displayed on the screen mean before the times run out. So are you ready? You only have 10 seconds po to guess what the real phrase is before the answer is revealed. Okay? So may we ask our technical team to flash the first word? Alright. Yes, the gibberish. Ano kaya ito? Sabi nila parang pag binasa mo baby talk, parang ka nagbe-baby talk. Pero ano kaya yung word na to? Ayan, parang maganda naging breakfast po ng MLDU Salcedo ulit. Si Ma'am Getty Amor. So ang sagot niya is complimentary. Is this the correct answer? Ayan, so parang ano lang pala to, nag-dry run muna sa ating lahat. Siguro nakuha niyo na po yung ating ano po, kung paano sasagutan. Next item po. Yes, the gibberish. Kaya to. Ito yung kailangan natin sa panahon ngayon. Alright, so dumarami na yung sana habol din po yung iba. So what's the answer? Medicine. Tama po. Congratulations po to those who got the correct answer. Next po. Guess the gibberish. I think related to sa nagiging topic natin for today. Alright. So ang dami yung sumasagot. I think talagang naano na kasi na tayo kung paano. What's the answer po? Ayan. So congratulations to Sir Howard for answering the correct answer. Okay, for the next word. Yes, the gibberish. Alright. Ano kaya po ito? Ayan. So, may mga sumagot po from Ilocos Sur ulit. Si Ma'am, parang si Ma'am, ang ganda na naging breakfast this morning. Si Ma'am Catherine Jane din po, sumagot na. And from Davao. And of course, Occidental Mindoro. So, what's the answer? Is this therapist? Ayan, correct. I think we have one last more. Ayan. So, may mga sumasagot pa po. Si Ma'am Mesoflor, sumagot na rin po. Ayan. So, what's the answer? Ayan, modalities. Congratulations for answer, modalities. Ayan, so that's all for today. So, there you go. Thank you very much for joining our today's virtual activity. But before we shift to the main course of our program, we will be giving again special tokens to 2 early bird participants who have first entered the waiting room. I think 30 minutes ulit siya nandito na po siya sa ating waiting room. So upon verification and validation of our technical team, we would like to announce our first early bird participant is from... Alright. Si Miss May Ann Joy M. Isidro of MLDU Salcedo, Ilocos Sur. Congratulations po, ma'am. And for our second early bird is from Miss Aida C. Cordova of MLDU Salcedo, Ilocos Sur. So ano kayang meron sa MLDU Salcedo? Parang early riser ang mga tao dyan. Ayan. Congratulations po. Our event secretariat shall coordinate with you on how to claim your special token. So please don't forget to check your emails and direct messages here in our Zoom. Moving on, before we dive to the lecture proper, let me give you an overview of the program of activities for the 4th day of our online session. For today's activity, I'm thrilled because we will be having a full session on alternative methods of procurement. I am sure you are already excited to start this learning journey with us. So I encourage everyone to actively participate, voice out any concerns, and you may also share with us your thoughts on how we can be better improve our public procurement system. Further, to make our discussion even more exciting, I would like to remind the participants that we shall be conducting a series of knowledge check questions in this online training, wherein our Zoom participants shall answer questions through Zoom poll, which shall be flashed later on your screens. We look forward for everyone to learn and participate from this online training program. With that, allow me to introduce our resource speaker this morning. It is an honor to introduce to you our session's resource speaker. She graduated magna cum laude, majoring in BS Accountancy, and had her masteral on Business Administration, both at the University of San Carlos, Cebu City. She is a certified public accountant and was a former regional director and procurement service regional depot supervisor of the Department of Budget and Management, Regions 10 and 11. And she has been in the government service for more than 42 years before she retired last June of 2020. She is also a recognized trainer of the GPPB since 2003. Ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our speaker, Ma'am Annabel M. Atilio. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much, Malu.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Are you will be sharing You will be sharing your
Um,
screen po, ma'am, no?
yes, yes. Okay. So, is my camera on?
Parang naka-on siya, ma'am, kaya lang hindi pa po visible yung video. I think due to
Okay.
internet connection po siguro. Pero it's okay, ma'am.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay na po.
Okay. Again, thank you, Malu. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Those coming from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Magandang umaga, maing buntag kanatong tanan. There is an idiom that save the best for last. I know this is the last batch of MLGU training on RE 9184, and I'm very sure this group is full of excitement, considering that I always hear that alternative method of procurement is your favorite mode of procurement. If you have only an amount which is meager and less than 1 million or 1 million and below, you always choose to have alternative method of procurement. And in the interest of internet connectivity, so I'll continue talking but without video so that I will not eat up part of the bandwidth. I know at this point in time, you're already overwhelmed with information. Information from day 1, day 2, day 3, and now in day 4. But I would like to request everyone to value today. One of the authors says, yesterday was a canceled check. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is your cash. So spend your cash wisely. What I'm trying to drive at is we'll focus on AMP today. Considering that, as I said, that is their usual mode of procurement that sometimes others get confused. Shall it be competitive bidding or shall it be alternative method of procurement? Kaya nga may kanta tayo na sinasabi na confused na siya daw. Yung ano ba yung kanta sa Tagalog? Ako'y, do you still remember that song? Ako'y litong-lito. And that is common among back members. When confronted with different modes of procurement, we always think that the easiest way out from competitive bidding is alternative mode of procurement. But I'm sorry to tell you, it is not as easy as that. It is as difficult as choosing your partner in life. Why? Because in procurement, when you choose an alternative method of procurement, see to it that you choose the appropriate one. And that is our topic today, so that we will be guided and we are full of confidence. With certainty, we choose the appropriate alternative method of procurement. Okay. So again, I would say my warmest welcome to the last batch of this training. So we will now proceed to our presentation. Okay. Ay, nawala. Hello, Malo? Parang nawawala yung kuan ko.
Yes, ma'am.
Bakit nawawala? I am supposed to screen share na. Sandali, ha?
Would you like to assist you, ma'am, on sharing the screen po?
Gusto ko sana akong mag ano so that I can save time pero let's try, huh? How can I make your image bigger? Kasi minimize ko kanina. O sige, kayo na lang. Dalawang beses ito sa MLGU. Sige.
Sige po, ma'am. We'll ask our
Okay.
technical team po to share the screen. Here. So I think, ma'am, ready na po yung slide deck. You may proceed na po with your discussion.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, kindly inform us
Wal-
na kung next slide na po, ha? Thank you.
Pero wala akong nakita dito. Wala akong nakita.
Not yet uploaded pa po, ma'am. Wait lang po.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. In the meantime that it is being prepared, so I would like to request all participants in the meantime to forget what you learned for the past 3 days. Just focus on alternative methods of procurement. And by the last day, you consolidate all your learnings. Okay.
Alright, ayan ma'am. Bali naka-share screen na po yung ating technical team. Can you see the screen, ma'am?
Oh, pero ang liliit. Can you make it bigger for me?
Sige ma'am. Ma'am, you can proceed na lang po, then we will, sundan na lang po namin kung ano po yung topic na din-discuss nyo. Anyway, naka-open naman po yung slide deck sa inyong laptop.
Sige, okay.
Alright,
Okay,
no problem,
again, our topic for today is alternative methods of procurement. And we know for a fact that from the term itself, it's an alternative, meaning the general rule is competitive bidding. And it has two objectives. Okay, can I have the slide changed? Two objectives. The first one, the first one is to know and to identify, and most importantly, to differentiate the difference between and among the 5 alternative methods of procurement. And the second objective is to know the conditions, then we have, sandali ha, titingnan ko na to. The conditions, the procedures, and the documentary requirements. I repeat. So we have this, sorry. Sandali in. Okay. Rewind muna kasi. Rewind. Okay, the first objective is to know, to identify what are the 5 alternative methods of procurement, and to know the differences between and among the 5 AMPs. Secondly, how to appropriately use, or worded differently, how to use the appropriate alternative methods of procurement based on the prescribed conditions, procedures, and requirements. Then we have in our outline, we have 2 parts to outline. The first one, the general guidelines. The second one is about the conditions, procedures, and documentary requirements, CPD. Conditions, so we have set of conditions, the procedures, and the documentary requirements. I would like to advance that insofar as the documentary requirements are concerned, it will be flashed, but I will not expound or explain because it's a matter of checklist, but you will see that in the slides. Okay. So the first one, based on our outline, is the general guidelines. Okay, next slide. The first guideline is all procurement shall be done through competitive bidding. And that is found in section 10 of our RE 9184 and its revised IRR. However, I would say that is the default, meaning As much as possible, all procurement shall be done through competitive bidding. That is the general mode. But the law itself is not harsh. It gives the procuring entities the option to resort to alternative method of procurement. In fact, it says may resort to alternative method of procurement if it so decides. And once we choose the alternative methods of procurement, it shall be resorted only in 3 instances. Okay, the first one, in highly exceptional cases. Please click highly exceptional cases. The second one, to promote economy and efficiency. If you think by conducting public or competitive bidding, it is more costly, and if we resort to alternative methods of procurement, we can promote economy and efficiency, then go. But there's the third condition. Provided the conditions set forth in sections 48 to 54 are complied with. I repeat, there are 3 instances only where AMPs are allowed. 1, in highly exceptional cases. Second, to promote economy and efficiency. And the third one, you should conform to the conditions set forth in sections 48 to 54. Okay. The next general guideline is, please, next, is do not undertake any procurement of anything unless it is found or it is in accordance with the annual procurement plan. So in short, we cannot prepare an annual procurement plan without premeditation. You cannot prepare an annual procurement plan for the year which is only copy paste from the past year. It should be the product of procurement planning process and at the same time participated, coordinated by all stakeholders in the organization. So when we have the annual procurement plan, it means that is already sanitized, it is already with complete funding source, and it is duly approved by the procuring head of the procuring entity or the next in rank if the head of the procuring entity will decide to delegate that. Okay, in that form, that will be your Bible. Not only the Bible of BAC, but that is the Bible of the whole organization. And since we're talking about AMP, it becomes the Bible of the BAC. When they try to determine and check what specific mode of procurement is approved by the HOPE and is recommended by the BAC. I know all of you are familiar with that APP form. In the 4th column, you will see that there is that mode of procurement. Please click. The mode of procurement is in the 4th column. Okay, so that is to guide you. Which alternative method of procurement are you going to use? Next slide. The next general guideline speaks of splitting of contracts. We in the LGUs normally, as well as those in the national government, when we talk about splitting of the contracts, we always reckon with the allotment. So for the national, we have the General Appropriations Act. In your case, we have the Appropriations Ordinance. And what is allotment? Allotment is the authority given by the government to the head of the procuring entity to enter into contract. It's a go signal. Therefore, if there is no allotment, there is no funding, it should not be included in the annual procurement plan. So we're not talking about splitting of the contracts. Our assumption here is there is already an allotment. If the allotment is in lump sum, so if it is in lump sum, it only means that we have to make that available for procurement. But there are those agencies, let's talk first about the national, where it's a big organization that it delegates from the secretary and the secretary, assistant secretary, to the regional director, and in the case of DepEd, even to the schools division superintendent, and even to the principal or OIC. So there is a graduated delegation of authority as to signing of contract. So why am I discussing that? Because the splitting of the contracts is committed if those who cannot sign the contract will try to chop the amount in order to avoid and even to circumvent following the rules and regulations of 9184. So if they do that, that is splitting of the contract. But in your case for the LGUs, for example, you want to construct a municipal hall worth 40 million. Since you are a high first class municipality, you're able or you can very well afford to appropriate in your appropriations ordinance 40 million for 1 year. So you have 40 million available allotment. But you try to chop 10 million public bidding for first quarter, second bidding, another 10 million, another for the third and fourth. That is what we call splitting of the contracts. Why? Because you're given already the authority to enter into contract for 40,000. And why are you doing it in a chop? 40 million. You're doing it at 10 million. So you should have up that, you should make that available, the whole 40 million. But let's have another example. For example, you belong to a 6th class municipality. You have a total project cost of 40 million. But your resources really cannot afford, even with your ERA under Mandanas, you cannot afford to allocate 40 million one shot for 1 year. So what you did was to allocate 10 million per year. So, question, when you advertise that in the invitation to bid, how much amount are you going to include to indicate 40 million or 10 million? Hi. So the appropriate amount that you should indicate in the invitation to bid is how much? Hello? Are you still with me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you well po.
Okay, so anong sagot ng mga participants? How much amount shall they indicate in the invitation to bid in the second scenario?
Alright.
Okay.
So, I think, ma'am, may nagsasagot po sa ating chat box. Medyo mahihain din po kasi yung ating
sige,
mga participants. Opo.
Okay, so parang abrigana na lang. Okay, so the amount that you should indicate in the invitation to bid should only be 10 million. Is there splitting of the contracts? No. Bakit? Yung available allotment which serves as the authority to enter into contract is only 10 million. Kahit na yung total project cost is 40 million. You cannot make it available for bidding na wala pang pondo. What is available is 10 million. So 10 million muna. So yun ang ibig sabihin. However, mayroon akong however, in the opinion of GPPB, to the query sent by the Bureau of Corrections, where it has elevated the circumstances surrounding in the procurement that they had, they were asking whether it constitutes a splitting of the contracts. So they were allocated a lump sum amount, but to attract more participating bidders, to attract more contractors. So they divide it, they chop it to make it more attractive, and to increase the competition among those interested. And according to GPPB, it ruled that it does not automatically constitute splitting of the contracts if the very purpose is to increase competition. So yun ang nakakaiba. Okay, next slide. Okay. Ano ba? Next is about, ano ba ito? It's about reference to brand name. This is not a new provision. This has already existed since the birth of RE 9184. It's found in section 18, where the law says that we should not indicate the brand name. Why? In the invitation to bid, I repeat, we should not indicate the brand name in the invitation to bid or request for price quotation. Why? Because one of the principles in procurement in RE 9184 that you learned in the first day is competition. The moment you indicate the brand name, you already stifle competition. You restrain trade. Ibig sabihin, you already limit. For example, you want to buy car. Sabihin mo, I want Honda. So wala nang competition kasi you have already chosen Honda. And that is not the spirit of competition that RE 9184 wants to drive at. We want everybody to be treated equal. Therefore, we are barred from indicating the brand name. But we have to intensify our technical specifications, not necessarily the minimum requirements, but according to the latest, the 2016 revised IRR, necessary requirements of the end user. So I repeat, from minimum requirements, na iba na ngayon sinasabi, necessary requirements. That's why I always disagree to those who still carry in their minds that the government procurement, we always purchase the less quality or no quality. It's not true. It depends upon the product of your procurement planning. If you fail to specify the right specifications and the necessary requirements, of course, you will end up with something not in accordance with what you want. Okay. And the same rule shall also apply to the goods of component of infrastructure projects and consulting services. Next general rule is the delegation of authority. This is new also in the 2016 revised IRR. And it's very timely. The revised IRR in 2016 took effect on October 28, 2016. Then, 4 years after, almost 4 years after, that was in March 2020, we had this pandemic. And the very purpose or the essence of delegation of authority is if your organization is so big and you have a lot of procurement activities to be undertaken, sometimes the hands of the buck already saddled with all procurement. Kung minsan, nakakalimutan niya nung regular function niya, although that should not be. But at the same time, it's a jury duty to be part of BAC. Kaya nga, in this delegation of authority, you can find this also in Annex H. Annex H of the IRR of 2016 is devoted purely for alternative methods of procurement. In Roman numeral number 4, delegation of authority, capital letter J, it states that through a resolution as recommended by BAC and as may be approved by the head of the procuring entity, the conduct of the following may be delegated to the end user or any appropriate bureau, committee, or unit. But remember, this is not automatic. This should be recommended by BAC and approved by the head of the procuring entity. So what are these? These are shopping. You will see that the remaining four all belong to the negotiated procurement. Negotiated procurement emergency, negotiated procurement small value procurement, and list of real property and venue, negotiated procurement direct retail purchase of poll and airline tickets. So ibig sabihin, the delegation of authority is applicable only to 2 AMPs, shopping and negotiated procurement na 4. Remember, yung negotiated procurement has 14 sub-procurement methods. Therefore, of the 14, 4 lang ang pwede i-delegate ng BAC as approved by the head of the procuring entity. Okay, next slide, please. Hello. Next slide. The next general guideline is about PhilGIPS registration. Okay. Itong PhilGIPS registration, it was also explained yung PhilGIPS. Diba? Sa first day, anong sabi? Sa Procurement 101. One of the things, aside from standardization, is the government has modernized procurement with the advent of PhilGIPS. And it has helped us a lot. And in PhilGIPS, both the procuring entities, tayo mga nasa sa government, all government instrumentalities, we are all required to register in PhilGIPS for free for database and for our interaction with our contractors, sellers, manufacturers. The sellers, the manufacturers, the contractors, and etc., they are mandatorily required also to register with PhilGIPS if they want to have transaction with the government, but for a fee. I repeat, in the government, we are required to register in PhilGIPS for free, but those sellers are required to register for a fee, also with PhilGIPS. At saka, just to give you a background, there are 3 membership. To start with, mayroong red. Yung red naman, read only. Meaning, they register online, they can see, but they cannot print. Read only, kaya read only, pwede mabasa, they can view their PhilGIPS registration number. Then we have the blue membership. They can read and at the same time generate at their own workplace their PhilGIPS registration certificate. But the higher, the platinum membership, aside from reading it and generating it at their workplace, the PhilGIPS registration certificate, it can also upload its Class A documents. I repeat, Class A documents, but the responsibility of making it current is vested with the seller. Make it current. Do not just upload not updated or not current. And finally, it can also upload their products. So yun ang ibig sabihin. But if we go back to this slide, ang sabi dito, what is important before the award of the contract is only the PhilGIPS registration number. So in AMP, the following AMPs, only PhilGIPS registration number is required, is a condition precedent for award. And what are these AMPs? So mayroon tayong 3. Direct contracting, shopping, and negotiated procurement. But take note, as I told you, maraming anak dito ang negotiated procurement. There are 5 under the negotiated procurement. The negotiated procurement takeover of contracts, negotiated procurement small value procurement, negotiated procurement lease of real property and venue, negotiated procurement, I always call this as CSAW ETM for acronym upang for easy memory recall. Scientific, scholarly, or artistic work, exclusive technology and media services, and finally, negotiated procurement for highly technical consultants. Okay, we have discussed so much, so I just want to interject. If you still remember, those who have been in procurement for so long already, for how many years, di ba, we have 5 alternative methods of procurement. One is limited source bidding. Another one is direct contracting. Third is repeat order. Fourth is shopping. And the last one, negotiated procurement. You can arrange that, but what is important is we have 5. But of the 5, the most number of methods of procurement is under the negotiated procurement. So take note, hindi lahat ng negotiated procurement pwede na ang i-ready mo is only PhilJEPS registration number. It is only applicable to the 5. I repeat, direct contracting, shopping, and negotiated procurement under the 5. Okay, next. Hello. And next, advertisement. Okay. When you talk about advertisement, always remember that advertisement is different from award. Pag sinabi natin nag-advertise pa kami, nanawagan tayo, okay, from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, LGU, Salcedo, Ilocos Sur, wants to buy 300 units of PC. So, advertisement yun. So, we're talking here about advertisement and the required posting of procurement opportunity. We say that for alternative methods of procurement, if the amount involved is 50,000 and below, you can waive the advertisement and posting. You can waive the posting, including in PhilJEPS. However, there are AMPs where, through the back secretariat, the following shall be posted. Ano yon? This is the limited source bidding, shopping, and negotiated procurement. Ibig sabihin, yung tatlo, the remaining 3, the 3 last boxes, 2 failed bidding, small value procurement, and NGO participation, they all belong to negotiated procurement. So it means, while we say that pwede ma-dispense yung advertisement of procurement opportunity for 50,000 and below, but for this one, for limited source bidding, shopping, and tatlong negotiated procurement, it shall be posted. It shall be posted where? In PhilJEPS website, in procuring entities website, unconspicuous place in procuring entities premise. Ibig sabihin, electronic posting yung PhilJEPS website, electronic postings on procuring entities yung sa LGU, at physical posting sa conspicuous. Balikan natin yung pinaka-first line. Sabi dito, newspaper posting. So, just a refresher, in the 2016 IRR, anong sabi? 2 years after the effectivity of this IRR. Mayroong sunset clause na nakalagay. Newspaper posting shall no longer be required. I repeat. So if the 2016 revised IRR became effective on October 28, 2016, so let's count our fingers. First year, October 28, 2017. Second year, October 28, 2018. Therefore, October 29, 2018, hindi na kailangan ang newspaper posting. There's only an exception if wala talagang hindi gumagana yung procuring entities website, hindi kayo makapunta din sa PhilJEPS, so you can proceed with the newspaper posting. Yun lang an exception to the rule. But I don't think one of the LGUs present would like to have the newspaper posting. It's very costly. So you'd rather go to PhilJeps and a website nyo. Okay. Again, in advertisement and posting of procurement opportunity, I repeat, wala pa itong award. We are still inviting bidders. So, your advertisement shall be posted for a period of at least 3 calendar days. Saan? Yung sinasabi ko, 2 electronic posting and 1 physical posting. So, kailan? Shall be posted within 3 calendar days. I repeat, 3 calendar days. Okay. Can we proceed to the next slide? Hindi yan. Sige pa. Next. Next pa. Okay. Anong sabi dito? Dito muna sa second box, ha? We are not talking of posting of notice of award. Pag sinabi natin notice of award at saka yung advertisement, there's a big difference. Yung sa advertisement, we were still inviting. But in the notice of award, it means mayroon ng winning bidder. So anong sabi dito? Sabi dito, there's already a winning bidder. We are required to post the notice of award, the contract or the purchase order, including the notice to proceed within 10 days from the issuance. So nakita nyo yung sa advertisement, 3 calendar days sa advertisement. Pero ngayon na mayroon ng awarded winning bidder, the procurement documents, as I mentioned, shall be posted within 10 calendar days. Saan ipopost? Same modes of posting. Doon sa website, electronic posting, PhilJeps, BS website, electronic posting, and physical posting in conspicuous place sa PES premise. Mayroong sinasabi dito, except, anong sabi? Except for contracts with ABC of 50,000 and below. So to be consistent with the advertisement, so if the contract is 50,000 and below, huwag na. May nagtanong in previous trainings, hindi lang yung last training, in other parts of our country, they were asking, Ma'am, ano ba yun? Is it not 49,999? No, it's 50,000 and below na hindi na kailangan ang posting. Pag sinabi nyo kailangan, you start with a preposition above 50,000. Okay, so let's tackle the first box. Anong sabi dito? Foremost, before we resort to alternative method of procurement, we should bear in mind, we should ensure that the government gets the most advantageous price for the most advantageous price. Di ba yun ang sinasabi natin kanina? Highly exceptional, economy and proficiency. So, ibig sabihin, we resort to alternative methods of procurement because the government can have efficient and economical procurement activity. So, hindi ibig sabihin na nag-alternative method of procurement tapos it would just result to a prohibitive price. Hindi yan ibig sabihin. Ibig sabihin, dapat the most advantageous price for the government. And just a reminder, all of us are aware of COA's issuance about IUEEU. Although here, when the IR was crafted, it was not expanded yet by COA. Parang UEEU. Yun lang. But after that, COA was expanded. Illegal, unnecessary, excessive, extravagant, unconscionable, and irrelevant expenditure. So, think many times before we decide, is this advantageous to the government? Hindi ba tayo mag-question about IUEEU? Ang hirap kaya i-defend. Pag sasabihin ng auditor, because they come from a different discipline, they always see things also objectively. good if we can justify, but this is one thing that it's very difficult to justify. Ibang perspective kasi nila. So, IUEEU, always bear that in mind that when we do or undertake procurement, our procurement, we're not guilty or we have not committed IUEEU. Okay. Pwede balik tayo sa previous slide, yung transparency. Sa transparency, hello, balik tayo sa 2 slides before. Yung sa transparency. Okay. So we are reminded that even in posting, even in advertisement, we are already reminded that we should be transparent and accountable for all the requirements under RA 9184, including its IRR, and this is reinforced in the yearly General Appropriations Act of the national government. So transparency is here. In the case of LGUs, they're always reminded by the LG that you should post whatever you have in your procurement. And okay, next slide. And there is a transparency requirement, including the posting of procurement documents, including the procurement documents. Saan i-post? Yan rin, PhilJEP's website, as well as social media reforms. Okay. Okay. Next slide. Sige pa. Okay, ito yung sinasabi ko. Dapat i-post din yung procurement documents. Okay, next. So makita niyo, there is a matrix. Anong sinasabi sa matrix? Sa first column, you have the different documents. Then the remaining 4 columns, kung saan i-post yan. So, we have horizontally our top headings. We have PhilJEP's website, conspicuous place, PIS website, and others. So we have invitation of request for submission of price quotation. Check yung tatlo. So ibig sabihin, okay, that is making true the spirit of transparency. Extension of deadline in shopping. Doon din sa tatlo. Then we have NOAA, contract purchase order, etc. Doon din sa tatlo. But there is one document. Now, it's only in the PIS website. And that is the notice of suspension of the conduct of procurement activities. So you may wonder, bakit sa website lang? If you still remember, when the pandemic started, mayroong binigay na authority ang GPPB sa mga BAC. Ano yung authority nila? They can cancel, they can terminate, they can suspend procurement activities for some reasons identified in GPPB Resolution 09-2020. Anong sinasabi doon? If it is physically impossible for the bidders to submit the document, it's physically impossible to conduct also meetings. So, and even to transmit, kasi tayong lahat stay at home. So in that case, pwede rin na they will issue the notice of suspension. And at the same time, when the restriction is already lifted, they can also then issue the notice of resumption. Okay. Okay, next slide. Okay. Yung sa next slide naman, timeline of submission of documentary requirements. Okay. Most of us will just take for granted RFQ. The RFQ others would ask, is there a standard form? So sagot naman ng GPPB, no standard form. What is important is it should be in a form where important information are contained, such as the item, the technical specifications, the price or the ABC, total amount, period, including also the required signatories according or as required by COA. Question: are you satisfied with that? So we are now being advised here that you should also indicate information. For example, when do you want the RFQ to be sent back to your LGU? That is very important. Why? Because if you don't indicate that as a note, as a footnote, or whatever additional information that you will indicate, then you will just be at the waiting end. It will railroad your procurement programming. So it is important that you should indicate, for example, MLGU Salceda Ilocos Sur would like to have the duly filled up RFQ returned not later than you specify the date. Kasi if you don't put the date, they can always ask, oh, nag-submit kami pero that was 2 months or 3 months after. And you can include also other documents that you may require before the notice of award. Kailangan nyo in the evaluation of the offers. So yun. Okay, next. We will waive discussing that because I'm sure that's part of day 1. Okay, next naman. Okay, Malu, can we have the knowledge check? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. We're now on our first knowledge check. So may we ask our technical team to flash the first question? Okay. The question is, the conduct of the following may be delegated to end user unit or any other appropriate bureau, committee, or unit duly authorized by BAC through a resolution approved by the HOPE Exec. A. List of real property. B. Small value procurement. C. To fail bidding. Or letter D. Emergency procurement. So at this point, maybe ask our participants po to choose your answer on the Zoom polling feature flash on your screen. So I see 15% participated. Ayan. So medyo dikit-dikit yung mga sumagot. Yan, may mga nagbabago pa ng kanilang mind. So we have 30% participated. Maybe encourage po na sana lahat sumagot para at least malaman din ng speaker natin kung ano na po ba yung ating learning for this session. Alright, so I think let's wait for other. Yan, 60% na po, 63%. So I am closing na po our Zoom polling feature in 5, 4, 2, and 1. Ayan. So let us share the results. Ma'am Ann, most of the participants po with a 33% answer letter D, emergency procurement. Is this the correct answer po?
Okay, the conduct of the following will be delegated to end user unit or any through a resolution except. Okay. Okay. Yung tamang sagot, okay. Anong tamang sagot? Kasi nakalilito yung sagot nila. Mayroong emergency, may small value procurement.
Okay. Actually, ma'am, dikit-dikit yung percentage na lang.
Okay. But I think to the participants, let's focus on the except. Ang sabi dito, ibig sabihin, out of A, B, C, D, ano ang hindi pwede ma-delegate? Yun ba ang tamang pagkaintindi? Kasi ang sabi, the conduct of the following may be delegated to end user or any other appropriate bureau, committee, or unit duly authorized by BAC, approved by the HOPE, except. So yung tanong nyo, ang except.
Opo.
Okay, anong sagot? Ang tamang sagot is to fail biddings. Tama ba tayo?
Siguro medyo na-confuse lang sila, ma. Anyway,
Okay.
This is only a first knowledge check. So I hope makabawi po naman po lahat ng ating participants.
Malo, umuulan ba dyan?
Hindi naman po, ma.
Okay. Siguro, yung mga molecules natin ay natutulog pa rin kasi naka-aircon kayo dyan, no? Oh, okay. So anyway, the correct answer is letter C. Two
Alright.
failed biddings. Okay.
Ayan. So, keep in mind, letter C po ang tamang sagot. Thank you for the clarification po, ma'am. Congratulations po for those who got the answer correct. So, let's proceed na po with our session.
Okay. Hello. Okay. Oh, the next part of our program, the next part of the discussion is about CPD. C stands for conditions, P for procedures, and D for documentary requirements. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. Kung natandaan nyo, I keep on repeating that there are 5 alternative methods of procurement. We have limited source bidding, direct contracting, repeat order, shopping, and negotiated procurement. Before we'll proceed to the detailed discussion about the CPD, let me give you these highlights of each. So yung limited source bidding is almost the same with competitive bidding. All other procedures, we have stages in competitive bidding, almost the same, except for 2 things. One, there is a direct invitation. Ibig sabihin, diretso kayo sumulat doon sa mga prospective bidders na applicable. Second, to a pre-selected suppliers, meaning you have already pre-selected, you have already pre-identified kung sino yung bidders. All the rest, which you learned in competitive bidding, same procedures. Okay. Direct contracting is the simplest mode of procurement, almost the exact opposite of competitive bidding. Why? Because in direct contracting, it does not involve elaborate procurement documents. It does not involve more than one bidders. It does not involve so many intricate stages of procurement. Isa lang. Kaya nga, simplest. Then we have repeat order, which I will discuss later. Shopping. Shopping, there are only two conditions. For common use supplies and the other one, unforeseen contingency with cap sa both. Then negotiated procurement, sabi ko kanina, I already advanced, there are 14. Can you imagine 14? So our discussion, 60% of my time this morning will be devoted to negotiated procurement. And the last one, we have the repeat order. Special mention ito, nasa gitang repeat order. Bakit? Repeat order is unique compared to the 4. Why unique? Because we said that in the recontracting, limited source bidding, shopping, and negotiated procurement, what is important is you just comply with one, take note, with one condition, you are already compliant, meaning you can proceed with alternative method of procurement. But in repeat order, it's not. It's all or nothing. There are 6 conditions. All 6 should be present. Otherwise, you cannot proceed with the negotiated procurement. Okay. So, balik tayo ha. 5 alternative methods. Just raise your palm, count your fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that represents the alternative method of procurement. Okay, next. The first one is the limited source bidding. The limited source bidding is also called a selective bidding. May pangalan siyang iba. Limited source at the same time selective bidding. This is what I told you, that the only difference between limited source bidding and competitive bidding is there is a direct invitation. Diretso yung invitation. To whom? To pre-selected suppliers or consultants. Bakit? Mayroon bang suki-suki? No. The pre-selection process should be undertaken, and sometimes the pre-selection is not done by you, but by the law itself. It's already embedded in the body of the law. Okay, it's applicable to goods and consulting services, and these are the conditions. It's only applicable to highly specialized equipment services or major plant components. Example of highly specialized equipment services. 1. Airport navigational equipment. Not all big companies manufacture navigational equipment. So, kaya nga, we don't write to all SM, S&R, Robinsons, or whatever, but we will write directly to those manufacturing the specialized types of goods. For example, major plant components. Many times I made this as an example. During the time of the late President Ferdinand Marcos, the biggest steel plant in Asia, not only in the Philippines, was the National Steel Corporation, situated in Iligan City. But after many years of operations, something went wrong. So it shut down and it was up for sale. After several years also, until finally it was sold, or it was finally bought by an Indian company. It is now called Global Steel. But before they continue the operation, they resume the operation, they have to retrofit, they have to repair other major components. And it cannot just say, okay, wanted engineers. There are specific fields of engineering. They cannot just say wanted engineer. Noon, we have only 3 types of engineers: civil engineer, mechanical, and electrical. But ngayon, ang dami na. Systems engineer, electronics and communications engineer, industrial engineer, iba't iba. So pag ganon, what kind of services does it need? So it has to be specific and write only to those applicable. Okay, next. Sa limited source bidding, sinabi ko sa inyo, mayroong pre-selection. But before I'll discuss this one, in the case of DepEd, year in, year out, there are millions of money allocated for each regional office for the manufacture of desk and armchairs. Alam natin, education gets the highest budget in our national budget. So, sa dami ng mga enrollees, kuminsan, madaling masira yung desk and armchairs. So, in the special provision of DepEd budget, mayroon nakalagay doon. So, this is just an example. I may not be accurate. Say, for example, 20% of this amount shall be made available to cooperatives. So, ibig sabihin, you don't have to advertise that in the newspaper for everyone to participate, but you just write directly to the cooperatives who are engaged in the manufacture of desk and armchairs. Yun ang ibig kong sabihin. It's dictated by the law itself. Another one is, sinasabi doon, 15% shall be made available to PWDs, persons with disability, who are engaged in the manufacture of desk and armchairs. So, ibig sabihin, you don't have to come up with a pre-selection that is already embedded in the law itself. And therefore, you just write directly to the PWDs with or organization which are engaged in the manufacture of desk and armchairs. But other than those dictated by the law, ito na yung sinasabi natin sa slide, there should be a pre-selection of prospective bidders, which is based on capability and resources to perform the contract, taking into account the following. 1, of course, we don't want fly-by-night. Ayaw natin ng pipitsugin. Dapat we should consider the experience, the performance on similar contracts. How about the personnel? Personnel, ibig sabihin, personnel of high caliber, especially if it is consultancy. Equipment, kung infra naman, do they have the equipment? Kung IT, for example, do they have the equipment? And it's very difficult if it is a horizontal, for example, roads and bridges, kasi yung equipment have serial number. And I shared this with the fourth batch, na there was a time when DPWH was trying to generate savings and decentralized public bidding. Anong nangyari? Only one bidder won in some projects in Mindanao and Luzon. So anong nangyari? Nagbaklag karamihan ng mga roads. Yun ang resulta. Nang tiningnan yung mga equipment pala, it's hardly possible that the equipment from Mindanao dadalhin sa Visayas or Luzon dadalhin sa Mindanao. So kayo mga BAC, when you post-qualify, you try to keep track of the serial number of the equipment. Then, most important also is the financial position. If the procurement opportunity is 50 million, yung resources niya is 1 million, ay, ibig sabihin, hindi dapat. Okay. Financial position is very important because it would be the LGU that will suffer most pag kulang-kulang yung pera ng contractor, or you will be disturbed every now and then asking for additional billing or whatever. Okay, so I repeat, in the pre-selection, you can undertake the pre-selection process. Considering those factors, you can access also the GPPB website found in the slide, but I know that you should report to GPPB kung sino yung mga pre-selected suppliers. And at the same time, if mandated by the law itself, then you can have the pre-selected as enshrined already, as required in the law. Next slide. Okay, may tanong. Who prepares the pre-selected list of suppliers or consultants? Sabi dito, it is the relevant government agency expert in the procurement concerned. However, in the absence of that, the procuring entity through its BAC, with the assistance of TWG, shall prepare the pre-selected list. I would advise the LGUs, do your own pre-selection because you're the most knowledgeable kung sino yung nearby or even those coming from other places na nakakomply based sa mga parameters which you already established. I'm very sure you have already your own parameters. Remember, the law is already 19 years old, 2003, and we're now in 2022. So, ibig sabihin, 19 years old na. Okay, we will now proceed to the next one. So we're through with limited source bidding. We now proceed to direct contracting, another AMP, which has another name, single source procurement. So if we have selective bidding for limited source bidding, the direct contracting is also called single source procurement. Sabi ko kanina, the most or the simplest mode of procurement is direct contracting for the following reasons. One, it does not require elaborate bidding documents. It does not involve more than one bidders. So you don't have to interact with a lot of suppliers, and it does not entail intricate stages of procurement activities. Once the offer is accepted, immediately you can have negotiations. Direct contracting is applicable only to goods. What are the conditions? So we have also conditions. Yung sinasabi natin na C. Items of proprietary nature. Ibig sabihin, intellectual property, such as if you invent something, you should have it patented so that others will not copy. If you are an author, if you are a good writer, book writer, have it copyrighted so that others will not be guilty of plagiarism. Second one is critical components from a specific supplier. Yun sinasabi natin, compatibility. It's good that I am reminded in reference to brand names. The only exception to brand names is compatibility. Meaning, if you have a printer, which is Epson, you cannot feed with consumable coming from Red Fox. You cannot feed consumable coming from Brother. So critical components from a specific supplier. Okay, another one, item sold by exclusive manufacturer. So it means siya lang talaga. And we cannot see other equal substitute in the market. Okay, these are the documentary requirements. Mayor's permit, field chief's registration, and income business tax return. I don't have to explain that. My suggestion is come up with your own checklist. In fact, in 888 and Anti-Red Tape Act, come up with a checklist so that the bidders will not be at a losing end after the delivery. They will just wait until when you will be through processing. You should inform them even in pre-bid conference, ano bang mga documents that they should submit before they get paid. Okay, next. What are the procedural guidelines? Okay, the recontracting procedural guidelines. And next slide, please. 1. End user shall conduct survey. I would like to rephrase, end user shall update the conduct of survey. Because for me, the market survey, real market survey, should be undertaken during procurement planning. It would be too late na procurement procedure na, doon pa kayo mag-conduct ng market survey. You should have undertaken that during procurement planning. So all you have to do in the procedural guidelines is update the conduct of survey. Second, through Secretariat, the BAC shall prepare the RFQ or pro forma invoice and send it to identify the contract supplier. Sabi ko kanina, there is no hard and fast rule as to the format of RFQ. What is important, it shall contain the necessary signatories and all other information with a note when it is due to be returned to your LGU, as well as the date of deadline of other procurement documents that they should submit to you before payment or before the award. Okay. Then we have the BAC shall may conduct simplified negotiation. Ito yung sinasabi ko, very simplified. Walang maraming proseso. May conduct simplified negotiations on the terms and conditions of the contract to ensure that the supplier is technically, legally, and financially capable. And finally, for the hope to award the contract after the BAC recommendation. Okay, next. Okay, still in the recontracting, please jot down all in capital letters W-E-T-I. W-E-T-I. W stands for water, E for electricity, T for telephone internet, and I, internet service provider. Internet, I repeat, W electricity, W water, E electricity, T telephone, I internet. Anong ibig sabihin? In the recontracting, if the procurement involves water, electricity, telephone, and internet in a remote place, in an isolated island, in a far-flung municipality, or in a very interior, it's at the top of the hill, where only one supplier for WETI, don't bother yourself to look for other alternative methods of procurement. Shoot immediately ang direct contracting. Wala na kayong pagpipilian. In most LGUs, if you talk about water, it's the LGU. or a private organization. Electricity, isa-isa lang. So direct contracting. Telephone, isa lang mayroong hardware na nandoon sa inyo. Okay. Then you have internet, isa lang. Kahit love nyo ang signal, wala naman silang connection sa isla nyo. Then be contented with what you have. So direct contracting yung apat. Okay. We will proceed now to repeat order. Repeat order, do you still remember at the introduction during the second part? Pinahuli ko yung repeat order because kakaiba siya from the rest of the 5. Di ba mayroong 5? I discussed the first, second, the fourth, the fifth. Pinahuli ko yung repeat order. Bakit? Kakaiba siya because it's all or nothing. You have to comply all conditions. Otherwise, the absence of one, it will stop you. It will not allow you to proceed with repeat order. And I highlighted in my discussion, early discussion, that one requirement in repeat order is it should be repeat. It should be the product. The previous purchase was a product of competitive bidding. Therefore, you can only have or you can only undertake repeat order if the previous purchase was done through competitive bidding. Okay, next. Next slide. Okay. These are the conditions. What are the conditions? Next slide, please. 1, the original contract. Yun na sinasabi ko. Original contract award through competitive bidding. It doesn't follow that if you went to SM and handpick some items that your LGU wants to buy, then you can repeat doing that at SM. No. What is contemplated here is the previous purchase was done through competitive bidding. The second condition is the price should be lower or same as in the original contract. So let me, at this point in time, let me give you this example. If the municipality decided to purchase 12 sets of PC, 12 sets, okay, through competitive bidding, the contract was perfected and the price was at 45,000 per piece. Okay, 45,000. And you want to have a repeat order this time. And the price offered by the same supplier naging 50,000 lang. Have you not noticed ngayon parang everything tumataas? Sabi ng supplier ninyo, ay naku, 50,000 kasi for more than 2 years wala kaming sales. So sabihin nyo, if you want this to be undertaken at repeat order, you offer the same price or lower. So 50,000, you will not accept that. You reduce that to 45,000 or lower. So yun ang ibig sabihin. Splitting of the contracts, I already discussed that kanina. Of course, in repeat order, there should be no splitting of the contracts. And it should be availed within 6 months from the date of NTP. Okay, let's say that you purchase that through competitive bidding on January 31. Okay, use your fingers. January 31 this year. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. Ano na ngayon? September na. So, lampas na tayo sa 6 months. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na siya pwede. Pero kung sabihin natin, April lang kayo bumili through competitive bidding. So, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Shoot, pwede pa ang repeat order kasi within 6 months. How about pag sinabi nyo, we want to buy through repeat order kasi we conducted public bidding in January, we want, or in April, we want to buy 4 units under repeat order. Ang sinabi dito, it should not exceed 25% of the quantity. Anong sinabi? 25%. So what is 1/4 of 12? Hello, what's your answer? 1/4 of 12 or 25%. That is, hello, anong sagot nyo? 3. So pag 3, but you want to buy 4. So may ask the participants, Malu, pag sinabi ni Mayor, okay, I want 4 units to be bought out of repeat order. Anong sasagot nyo? Anong isasagot nyo kay Mayor? Pwede ba?
Alright, maybe ask our participants po to answer kahit sa chat box. Feel free to post po. Ayan ma'am, may sumasagot po na no.
Okay. Okay. So, sabihin natin it depends. Ang tamang sagot is, Mayor, yes sa 3. Kasi 12 divided by 4 equals 3. So, Mayor, okay yung repeat order sa 3. But we'll look for another alternative method of procurement for the remaining one. Do not flatly deny him. Baka sasabihin na, wag ka na mag-attend. Kasi yun pala yung sagot mo. Dapat, you should find ways and means. So, out of 4, 3 Mayor, okay sa repeat order. Yung 1 naman, another mode of procurement. Okay. Then the last one is, must be quantifiable, divisible, and consisting of at least 4 units per item. And I would like to add, there should be partial delivery and inspected already. Because we cannot have a repeat order na hindi pa nag-deliver. How can you have a repeat order, hindi pa nga nag-deliver, tapos magre-repeat ka na? So there should be partial delivery and the same already inspected. Question, quantifiable, divisible, and consisting of at least 4 units per item. Question, when we have catering service for our in-house training, or if we have visitors, is that divisible by 4? Yung iba sasabihin, ma'am, pag pansit, hindi man yan pwede, we will count the strands. Kung hindi man namin mabibilang kung ilang fresh lumpia, kung lechon, hindi namin i-chop-chop kasi bite size, paano yan ma-divide ng 4? So anong tamang sagot? Is catering allowed in repeat order? What is your question? What's your answer? Uy, mga siyay man ang taga Visayas ug Mindanao. Okay, what's your answer? Malu, can we... Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I think mo medyo mahiyain talaga yung participants for this batch. Pero opo, may mga sumasagot pa rin naman po. Sabi no.
Okay. So ang sagot natin, thank you for that answer, ha? Well, hindi naman tayo nagkikita. So be brave enough to answer whether yes or no. Wala namang kuan. Our purpose here is to learn and to unlearn what we used to believe to be true. Okay, the correct answer is pwede. And the answer is yes. Bakit? When we order for catering, it's not based on the menu. Ang costing is based on per pax. So, ibig sabihin, if there are 20 participants, divisible siya ng 4, di ba? After determining the number of packs, that's the time that you choose the menu. It just follows. But the main consideration is number of per packs. Okay. I'd like to highlight before we proceed to the next slide. Yung sa repeat order, meron dito 6 months. But there is an opinion given by GPPB that in case there is already an existing contractual obligation, 6 months will not be considered. And specifically, that decision was based on the cell phone. If you remember, whether it's a personal unit or it's an official unit, when you go to the telco, diba, every time you renew, there is a contract that you are required to sign in fine prints, including myself. I don't read that. Why? Hindi natin mababasa. So, ibig sabihin, the 6 months limitation will be waived in the case of cell phone because there is already an existing contractual obligation. Okay, next slide. Question. What stage in the procurement process can repeat order be considered to be within the reglementary period of 6 months? Okay, ang sagot is It shall be reckoned from the contract activity date, which should in no case be later than 7 calendar days from the issuance of the MTP. And if such mode of procurement has already been approved by the HOPE and the winning bidder has already been uppriced or notified before the lapse of the said period. So I think that's clear. Normally in other slides, sinasabi, not later than 7 days from the issuance of the NTP. Okay, so that's clear. Okay, next slide. Shopping. Itong shopping na to is not what you mean by the ordinary understanding of shopping. What is technically contemplated in RA 9184 is we have only two things to consider in shopping. One is it requests the procurement entity request price quotation, and it refers to unforeseen contingency, and for those readily available off-the-shelf goods. Or worded differently, we have two conditions, shopping A and shopping B. Shopping A refers to section 52.1.A and shopping B refers to section 52.1.B. Yung shopping A naman, it refers to unforeseen contingency. Normally, when we have an unforeseen contingency, the items are not included in the APP. Kaya nga unforeseen. Despite the premeditated procurement planning process, hindi natin nakikita unforeseen. For example, na-slide ka, nobody wants na ma-slide ka. So na-slide ka, pumuputok ang gulong ng LGU coming to Manila. So it's not also foreseeable. Excuse me. Sandali, Malo, ha? Kulang na ng gasolina. So in short, in unforeseen contingency, mostly these are not included in the APP. So ito yung tatandaan natin, mga back. In case of shopping, immediately have an SAPP so that the same will be documented. And before the end of June of the current year and before the end of December of the current year, the same shall be integrated. Okay, so these are the documentary requirements, and we will now proceed to the next slide about the conditions. In shopping A, there are three conditions. It's unforeseen. Next slide, please. It's unforeseen, and therefore, next slide muna. And therefore, it requires immediate action. So unforeseen, it requires immediate action, and it does not exceed the threshold, meaning the unforeseen could either be bad or could either be good also. For example, if the newly elected president wants to visit your place at Salcedo, so it's unforeseen. It's a part of the APP that you have already approved, but it's to our highest gratefulness that the president of the Philippines will visit the LGU. So in that case, perhaps you can have necessary preparation if the president says, okay, I'll go to Salcedo tomorrow. So it means it needs immediate action. It's unforeseen, it needs immediate action, provided the amount involved does not exceed 200,000. Yung tatlo, unforeseen contingency, it needs immediate action, the amount involved does not exceed 200,000. But if you have a bad unforeseen, for example, pumutok yung gulong nyo in washing to the referral hospital, to the COVID referral hospital, so that you will save the life of one of your personnel. Pumotok along the way. So you can immediately, so it's unforeseen. Second, does it need immediate action? Yes, of course, so that the vehicle will run again to bring the patient to the referral hospital. Does the amount involved cost 200,000 and below? If yes, okay, shoot yung unforeseen contingency. The second one is shopping B. Shopping B involves about the procurement of common use supplies, ordinary or regular office supplies. And we define common use supplies as those which are repetitively used in the conduct of your day-to-day operations of your office. When you do operate your office on a daily basis and you use ball pens, paper, etc., so that is common use supplies. And the amount involved does not exceed 1 million. I repeat, yung isa, 200,000. Ito naman does not exceed 1 million. Common use supplies. Many big agencies at the central office, where I had the opportunity also to be the speaker virtually sa training. Tanong sila, ma'am, dapat ba yung binibili sa PS hindi kasama sa APP? Then my answer is no. Everything that you buy, di ba? In section 7, anong sinasabi? All procurement, all items that will be procured shall be found in the APP. No procurement shall be undertaken if not found in the APP. Regardless of fund source and regardless wherever you buy it. And just a reminder, the creation of procurement service was created in LOI 755 signed by the late President Marcos and LOI 755 in the crafting of RE 9184 is carried to 9184. And therefore, that is the reason why we are mandatorily really required to purchase common use supplies at PS. So in condition B and shopping B, ang ibig sabihin, when you go to PS, it's not available. Under normal situation, pag hindi siya available, before you leave, you secure CENAS, Certificate of Non-Availability of Stocks. That will serve as your license. Show it to the auditor if you will be questioned that that is your license to proceed procurement outside procurement service with at least 3 bona fide suppliers. Hindi immediately sa suki. You should still float 3 RFQs with the bona fide suppliers. And the amount involved does not exceed 1 million. But with the pandemic, even until now, it's not lifted. We're still under pandemic. The CENAS requirement is waived because we are not yet allowed to have a face-to-face. So in that case, you don't have to secure a CENAS. All you have to do is follow GPPB resolution number 17/2020, where you have to visit the website of PS and check whether these items that you want to buy are not available. Okay. Hello, my dear participants from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Please write this down. Number 1 ba? 1 space 1. Okay. Anong ibig sabihin? In condition for shopping A, and there is unforeseen contingency, it means immediate action. It does not involve 200,000. What is required under 9184 is you float only 1 RFQ and retrieve 1 RFQ. Kasi emergency na nga, di ba? 1 RFQ and retrieve only 1 RFQ. So that is the meaning of 1, 1. However, in shopping B, you put there 3 space 3. Anong ibig sabihin ng 3 space 3? It means you are required to float at least 3 RFQs and at the same time, retrieve no less than 3 RFQs. Yung iba sinasabi, ma'am, wala mang kuan laman isa. Then, you expand. the law requires you to retrieve at least 3 RFQs. Okay, so that's enough. 1133. We will now proceed to the threshold. Next slide. So the threshold is 200,000 for shopping A and 1 million for shopping B. Next slide. So for the LGUs, depende yan ha, LGUs. You can just read it for yourself. These are the threshold for LGUs under section 52.1.8 unforeseen contingency. So you have the classification first to sixth class, then horizontally we have province, city, municipality, and you have the amounts there. Varying amounts depending upon the class, but at the bottom, remember that the barangay is always pegged at 50,000. Okay, next slide. This is now the threshold for LGU sa 52.1 point B. Anong ibig sabihin? Yung sa shopping B, common use supplies. Okay, so you have also the threshold varying from first, second, third, fourth, fifth class for provinces, city, municipality. Please be guided by your income classification, but the barangays remains to be pegged at 50. Okay, next. Next slide. Okay. So, ito na yung sinasabi ko kanina. I don't have to discuss 1-1. For unforeseen contingency, float 1 RFQ, retrieve 1. That would be enough. For shopping B, float 3, but you should retrieve 3. Okay, thank you. Next slide. Okay, knowledge check. Hello, Malo, knowledge check na tayo.
Yes, ma'am. We're down to our second knowledge check, or what we call the price question. So alam na siguro ng mga participants kung ano ba yung price question natin. So with that, allow me to remind our participants po to please change your Zoom name using the correct format po. Para at least kung tama yung sagot natin, ma-qualify po naman tayo to be a winner for this Casey question. So again, for this time, may we ask our dear participants to type in your answer to the Zoom chat box. The first one to post the correct answer with the correct name format will receive a special token from us. So may we ask our technical team to flash the second question. Okay, the question is, in case of shopping under 552.1A, the bank shall send the request for quotations to at least 3 suppliers of known qualifications, and at 3 price quotations must be obtained. Is it A, true, or B, false? Alright, so nakikita ko na yung mga answers from our Zoom participants. You may also, kahit nagsagot na tayo sa chat box, you may still choose in the Zoom poll para at least makita natin yung percentage din po from our dear participants. Okay? So, I think we shall close na po ang ating Zoom poll questions in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ayan. So, ma'am, for this particular questions po, most of the participants po, based on the Zoom polling feature, we have 73% answered letter A. True?
Oh, okay.
Is it the correct answer po?
Okay, let's read again. Baka na ano lang sila. In case of shopping 52.1.A, the box shall send the request for quotations to at least 3 suppliers of known qualifications, and at least 3 price quotations must be obtained. Okay, let's have a review before I'll give my comment. Anong sabi natin? Mayroon tayong shopping A, which is section 52.1.A. Then we have shopping B, which is 52.1.B. Yung sa shopping A, it involves unforeseen contingency. It needs immediate action, and the amount involved does not exceed 200,000. Shopping B, it involves common use supplies, and the threshold shall not exceed 1 million. Anong sinasabi ko sa inyo? i-jot down nyo yung 1133. Diba sabi ko, I repeated it twice. Okay. Yung sa 11, ibig sabihin, in shopping A, you float only 1 and retrieve only 1. Diba? 52.1.A. Then in shopping B, 52.1.B, that is commonly supplies 3, 3. Ibig sabihin, float at least 3 and retrieve at least 3. So, okay, you review your answer. Tama ba to? The answer is false. Baligtad yung answer
Ayan,
natin.
parang
Kasi,
nalito na naman po ata mo yung ating mga participants this time.
siguro na-influence kayo sa sabi ko kanina na yung kanta. Ako'y na litong-lito. Okay. So basta yun na. 1-1 basta 52.1.A, that is shopping A, dapat yung sagot is 1-1. Iisa lang ang i-float, then you retrieve also 1. Itong tanong na to is applicable to shopping B. Kaya nga yung tamang sagot should be false. Okay, congratulations to those who answered false.
Yes, ma'am. So for this moment po, I'll be announcing the winner to our next QC po. So let's resume na po with our session.
Okay, so we are now down to the 60% of our time. I hope we can finish this. So we have the negotiated procurement. Look at you raise your hand, look at your palm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 represents the alternative methods of procurement. But the fifth one, which is negotiated procurement, sobra, karami, 14. So in short, sa 14 na yan, yun ang i-discuss natin ngayon. However, of the 14, I will not give emphasis to 4. I will not give emphasis to 4, which are Defense Cooperation Agreement, United Nations agencies, international organization, or international financing institutions, NGO participation and community participation. That would be the last that will be discussed because they are not as important to you yung 10. Okay, let's read it together. Let's read it aloud. Okay, 2 failed biddings. See, let's read it together. Can I, please let me hear your voice. 1, hello. Malu, can they use the microphone? 2 failed biddings.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you clear, ma'am.
Sila. Second, emergency
Okay po.
cases. Third, takeover of contracts. Fourth, adjacent or contiguous. Fifth, agency to agency. Sixth, CSAP ETM. 7, highly technical consultants. 8, small value procurement. 9, list of real property. Then the 10th, I will jump to the last one. Direct retail purchase of poll and airline tickets. Yun ang pagdiinan ko ng discussion kasi these are the common negotiated procurement at your level. Okay, let's discuss with number 1. Okay, next slide. So 2 failed biddings. Do you still remember in knowledge check number 1? Anong sabi natin? 2 failed biddings is not part or is not among the negotiated procurement na nasali doon sa delegation of authority. Okay. Itong sa negotiated procurement, ang sinabi doon sa Annex H, ang sinabi sa atin IRR, you cannot resort to alternative method of procurement by just 1 failed bidding. Dapat there is a minimum of 2 failed biddings. May nagtanong way back 2004. Tinanong kasi, yung GOCC, they have a port operations. Nagtataka yung back laging failure. So, on their own, yung back sent a query to GPPB. Is there a cap for the number of failed biddings? Kailangan 2 lang? Pwede ba may 3rd, 4th, 5th, etc.? Anong sagot ng GPPB? There is no cap. The only cap is if it will result obstruction of justice, meaning There can be an obstruction of justice if the purpose of failure is just to delay, and it means denying the services to the intended beneficiaries. But as long as the head of the procuring entity can justify na mayroong it has to rebid and rebid, you have to rebid. And the only cap again is obstruction of justice. So kailan ba mayroong failure of biddings? Okay. So let me discuss first the background. We have two types na bidding. Competitive bidding, yung sa general rule under section 10, and the other one is yung sa limited source bidding. Limited source bidding, yung na-discuss natin kanina. I repeat, the general rule is in section 10, competitive bidding. There can be a failure of bidding, and there can also be a failure of bidding in limited source bidding under AMP. Okay. When we say failure of bidding, you will be guided by section 35. Kailan ba mayroong failure of bidding? So you will see at the lower portion, at the right side. When you invite and you did not receive any bid, nobody's interested to join. Second, all prospective bidders na nag-join are declared ineligible. Third, eligible naman but they failed to comply with the bid requirements at saka post disqualified o walang nagawa na successful negotiation. And lastly, mayroong lumalabas na winning bidder. But that winning bidder refuses without justifiable cause to accept the award or no award was made. So these are the grounds for failure of bidding. Question. Are you familiar with section 41? Section 41 speaks of reservation clause, which is given to the head of the procuring entity. And the head of the procuring entity, even before the pandemic, since 2003, binibigyan na ng 9184 the power to abort at any stage in public bidding, provided it is before the award of contract. Tay, pwede hangin dong? Hello? So, ibig sabihin, sandali, kinukula ko ng hangin. Tay, dong. So, meaning, in short, when the head of the procuring entity will exercise section 41, he can abort at any stage. You must be familiar already because you discussed public bidding. What are the stages in competitive bidding? He can abort at any stage but before the award of contract. Why before the award of contract? Because he cannot do otherwise if there is already a contract. There is already a meeting of the minds. Otherwise, it will result to a lawsuit. And we don't want that. The government doesn't want that. But he can exercise that only following the rounds one, the following rounds one. Nakita niya na hindi nasunod ng mga back yung rules and regulations in procurement prior 1984. Second, there is collusion among back members or among the bidders or between the back and the bidders. Third, by pushing through with public bidding, it will not give advantage to the government because there's only one supplier who can always demand for a higher price, which may be too prohibitive. Then the fourth one, if there is no more legal basis, kailan ba walang legal basis? Do you still remember when we were visited in March 2020 with the pandemic? When everybody was disturbed where to source the fund to address the concerns of COVID. When the budget at the local, at the national level, tapos na. Everything was already in place. So DBM wrote a letter to the national government to review the approved plans and sanitize which among may be terminated, canceled, postponed, or partially implemented. And parallel to that, there was also a letter to the LGUs to revisit your AIP and reprioritize what are those that may be terminated, canceled, or can be deferred. So yun, in that case, if the whole amount, you volunteered that to be withdrawn because you want it to be used as part of the pooled funds to address your concerns in COVID, then it would result to zero allotment. And it means there is no sense for the mayor, for the local chief executive, to push through with the public bidding because he has no more authority to enter into contract. Kinuha na yung appropriations. So, ibig sabihin, itong Section 41 nga reservation clause, hindi siya kasali sa bilang ng dalawang failed biddings. So, naintindihan nyo? So, ang bilang ng dalawang failed biddings, doon sa regular failure of bidding, sa competitive bidding at limited source bidding. Yung Section 41, wala siya. Okay, next slide. So, these are the procedural guidelines. One, if there is declaration of two failed biddings, and there is already a resolution by BAC recommending it to the head of the procuring entity to undertake another, to rebid or what, BAC, you are required by law to undertake mandatory review. Siyempre, among yourselves, you would ask, bakit walang taker? Bakit walang kumagat sa ano natin? So you have to review the terms, conditions, technical specifications, including the price. Baka your technical specifications are too high, that there is no available manufacturer in the Philippines. Or it could be that your other conditions are one-sided. Or it could be that your price is too low, in which case the government allows you to increase it but not exceeding 20%. Okay, assuming that after your mandatory review, we're able to come up with the final final agreements. So you need to prepare the RFQ or the bid docs, invite at least 3 suppliers, get the best offer, then you recommend for the award of contract. Sinabi dito, in all stages, observers shall be invited. And relate this with what you learned during the first day. Anong sinabi doon? The observers shall be invited only in the following. But in this case, in all stages, pag mayroon ng failure. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next one is emergency. We have sa emergency cases, dalawa, tatlo. One, when there is imminent danger to life or property during a state of calamity. So pag sinabi natin imminent, hindi pa siya actual. And my usual example is between a household which is located 5 kilometers away from a volcano and another household located at the foot of the hill of the volcano, madaling may actual calamity yung 5 kilometers kasi yung paglabas ng mga from the inside of the volcano doon sa malayong lugar. Pero yung houses which are located at the foot of the volcano, mayroon ng imminent danger. Yun ang ibig sabihin natin. And the advice for BAC is, when there is an imminent danger, do not start procuring. Before you start procuring, check, validate whether there is a declaration of a state of calamity. And take note that the state of calamity can be declared only by 2 authorities, competent authority. If it is a nationwide state of calamity, the declaration shall come from the President of the Philippines. But if it is local, it is within your LGU or nearby, then the state of calamity shall be declared by the sanggunian, subject to the prescribed guidelines by the DILG. So yun ang tatandaan natin. The second one is we have also an emergency case if time is of the essence arising from the natural or man-made calamities. So yun, time is of the essence. When you try to evacuate those whose lives are endangered by the flash flood, or you want to have a lockdown because you want people to be secured, not to be contaminated by COVID-19, etc. And other causes where immediate action is necessary to prevent damage to or loss of life or property, or to restore vital public services, infrastructure, facilities, and other public services. Good example here is if there is a calamity, natural calamity, then one bridge was destroyed. And that bridge is the only bridge that connects your municipality from the regional center. And many residents there are students studying in the main center, or there are employees also commuting every day because their work is at the regional center. So there is a need to restore immediately that bridge. Or take the case of Yolanda or Odette. When we have our kababayans who were separated from us, disconnected because of lack of communication or lack of electricity. And these are utilities which should be restored immediately so that we can continue being connected with them. Okay, next. Okay, what are the reminders? Okay. So in the case of emergency, malipong na ito dong. In the case of emergency, you have to consider the timing of needs. Timing of needs, meaning the time element between the actual happening of the calamity and your action to address that calamity should be considered. In fact, if you address the problem that was destroyed by the calamity way, let's say 4 months or 5 months after, according to our guidelines, you cannot invoke anymore that you will use emergency, negotiated procurement emergency. Why? Because you have already abated by the time element the need for that project or the need to restore utilities. Yung sa last one, ito yung sinasabi ko at the start. During a state of emergency for yung imminent danger, dapat you should establish the declaration by competent authority of the state of calamity. Sandali lang, parang kulang ako ng hangin siguro ng electric fan. Okay. What are the procedures? Okay. So, okay, next slide. So these are the documentary requirements. You can just read that. Okay, documentary requirements. We'll now proceed to the next slide. Next slide. Since we're now under the pandemic situation, we have to include this slide since the procurement of vaccines and other ancillary services should be procured under negotiated procurement. Sandali lang. Malu, excuse me ha, kasi I need air. Sandali lang.
Sige po,
Electric
sure,
fan ba?
ma'am.
Electric fan.
For this moment po, allow me na lang po to do some reminders po to our participants while waiting for our resource speaker. So, as I've said po, if you have questions, you can start dropping your questions po in our Zoom chat box and of course our Facebook live comment sections while the learning is ongoing. Please be advised na lang po that we shall be announcing our KC winner. Siguro allow me to announce na lang din po for this time yung ating winner since na-verify na po na ating technical team. So at this moment po, allow me to congratulate our KC winner for today. So we have Mr. Jefferson G. Inventan po from MLDU Salcedo, Ilocos Sur. So, sir, kindly check po your chat box because one of our event secretariat might message you on how you may claim your prizes po. Ayan. So again, if ever po na mag-question din po pala si Ma'am Ann po, feel free to drop your answer on chat box para at least mas maging lively and maging productive po yung ating learning session. Are you okay na po, Ma'am Ann?
Pwede health break muna, additional 5 minutes. Kain muna ako sandali. Pwede 5 minutes.
Alright, siguro ma'am, we will be playing na lang po. Ito na lang po yung ating break at this morning po. Let's have a 5-minute video na lang po from our technical team.
Hindi, haba tayo. Ikaw sa ilong.
All right, so now we're back. I think ready na po si Ma'am Ann to proceed with her lecture. Hi, Ma'am Ann. I hope you're feeling well now. Hi, Ma'am. Bali naka-mute ka po. Hello, Ma'am. Can you hear us po?
Okay. I can hear. How about me?
Yes, Ma'am. Loud and clear
Okay.
po.
Shall we resume? Hello?
Sure, Ma'am. Opo.
Okay. So, we left this slide. It's about update on GPP Resolution number 3-2020. During the pandemic, because of practicality, the DOH requested that some items will be included in the common use supplies. In fact, we say that in our definition of common supplies, dapat it should be the items which are repetitively used in the daily operations of our office. And at the same time, it is included in the electronic catalog. Okay. Before the pandemic, there were items which are very necessary to address the pandemic, which are not part of common use supplies. Thus, through the intersection initiative of GPP of DOH, some items were requested to be included as part of the common use supplies. For example, yung alcohol, yung face mask, which nobody was familiar with, face shield, disinfectant, and many more were already included in the e-catalog of the common use supplies. Okay, next slide. And added to that, it was defined that we should already include the procurement during the pandemic as part of the negotiated procurement emergency, since there's already a declaration of state of public health emergency. So we dispense with a written confirmation by the hope in the use of emergency case. So take note, written confirmation by the dispense in the use of the note negotiated procurement emergency cases. Remember the delegation of authority, Roman numeral 4, capital letter J. So it means there are items that already delegated to the end user, provision of immediate response and initial recovery steps, including ancillary services, list of real property and venue to be used by, for example, COVID positive or those to be quarantined, etc. And even for vaccination. Inclusion of COVID-19 items, which I already said a while ago. Okay. Next step, yung may... Okay, next slide. So what are the steps in the negotiated procurement emergency? Next slide, please. Yung parang may arrow. So first, since this is a negotiated procurement, we have to see to it that the APP, kahit siya under normal, walang pandemic, pagka emergency, don't forget that it should be included in the APP. Kailangan, before it will be included in the APP, kailangan mayroong funding. Pangalawa, you should determine kung ito ba ay to be delegated or what. So, yun ang mga i-determine natin whether the BAC or authorized person unit can directly negotiate or procure from a legally, technically, and financially capable supplier with all the documentary requirements. Then the step 3 is hope or authorized person to award contract to the legally, technically, and financially capable supplier. And finally, step 4, the BAC secretary shall post for information purposes the notice of award, contract, or purchase order, including the notice to proceed. So, yun ang normal natin. Normal natin ginagawa under the negotiated procurement. Okay, negotiated procurement is applicable, next slide, to goods, infra, and consulting services. And for the procedural guidelines, next slide. Next slide pa. Okay. So these are the procedural guidelines. Purchase request from end users. So take note, if you have some end users in attendance that trigger a procurement talaga kayo. So even if it's during emergency, it is your function to prepare the purchase request. Since it is not foreseeable emergency kasi, it necessitates the revision of the APP and validation of available budget for the purpose. Then proceed with a direct negotiation with legally, technically, and financially capable, then award of contract. Okay. Malu, another knowledge check.
Yes, ma'am. And now we're down to our third knowledge check. Maybe ask our technical team to flash the question po. And the question is, in negotiated procurement emergency cases, the bank may directly negotiate with the supplier, contractor, or consultant with technical, legal, and financial capability to deliver the goods, execute the works, and performs the services to address the emergency requirement. Is it A, true, or B, false? Ayan, so this time, we hope na sana po majority of the participants makuha na po ng tama ang ating kasagutan. Ayan. So, we have 32% participated in the Zoom poll picture. 41, 44. Okay. So, I think, since the majority naman yung answer, we are closing now our Zoom poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ayan. So, ma'am, anonymous decision talaga. With 95% po, most of the participants answer letter A, true. Is this the correct answer, ma'am?
Wow, congratulations, Malog. Perfect. Okay, the answer is true. To all those who answered true, congratulations. Tama kayo. Hello?
So,
Tama kayo. Kasi emergency na nga. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for citing the correct answer. Ma'am, as of the moment, time check lang po. It's 10:37 a.m. po. So let's proceed na po with the lecture proper.
Okay. Next slide. Okay. So, as part of the continuation sa COVID-19, let's discuss about the vaccination program of 2021 per RA 15525. And the procurement of the vaccination falls within the negotiated procurement under emergency, not only for the vaccine, but including ancillary services such as goods and services necessary for the storage. What are goods? For example, yung mga ano ba yung sa injection, yung sirens. What are the other services? Uy, naku, sandali. Sandali, parang, can you still hear me despite all this? Sandali, ha?
Hello, ma'am. Yes, so we can still hear you po. Pero for the meantime, since na inaayos po ni ma'am yung kanyang background.
Okay.
So, hello, ma'am.
Okay. So, all this shall be procured under emergency case. Okay. So, including storage, transport, deployment, and administration. I'm sorry, but I cannot stop the dogs from barking. So it's one thing.
It's okay, ma'am. We can still hear you naman po.
It's one thing that we learned in pandemic. We have to be contented with where we are in. Okay. So to include storage, meron tayong mga storage facilities. Then transport, deployment, and administration of COVID-19. So this fall under the negotiated procurement emergency. But take note that in the Philippines, the procurement of vaccine cannot be procured only cannot be procured by just anyone. Under GPPB Resolution 6-2021, it's only the DOH and National Task Force which are tasked to do the procurement. But the ancillary supplies and services may be delegated. I repeat, the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines, is confined only to DOH and National Task Force. The ancillary services may be delegated. And take note, next slide please, we have some principles which are departure from the natural emergency case which I discussed a while ago. For example, number 1, negotiated procurement, I emphasize this number 1 is applicable to both non-COVID at saka yung COVID na. So it means everything shall be reflected in the annual procurement plan. Second, this is now the departure. Normally, even if it's an emergency, we cannot commence procurement without an approved APP. But with COVID-19, we can commence without an approved APP, but subject to validation of funds for the purpose and submission of the approved APP prior to payment. Can you see the difference? Yung normal na negotiated procurement emergency, dapat mapasok siya sa APP. But with the vaccines, even hindi pa siya napasok sa APP, wala pang approved APP, we can already commence our procurement. However, the submission of the approved APP is necessary prior to payment. Second, the documentary requirements which we discussed doon sa isang slide na mayroong big arrow would not be applicable also to COVID-19. Why? Because the documentary requirements will be determined by DOH and NTF in their negotiation. So that's another departure. And the last one is a departure also from the normal NPEC. Normally, when we talk about advance payment, PD 1594 allows only advance payment for infrastructure. And it was the President of the Philippines who can allow 15%, we call it mobilization fund. And the new term under RA 9184, we call it as advance payment. But the 15% for infrastructure is expanded to goods. Ano yan? It's allowed during emergency where there is a state of calamity. And that is allowed only or granted to one supplier coming from the place where the emergency is declared, and he has already an experience contracting with the LGU. And the fourth requirement is in the initial requirement, but preference, he must, the fourth preference, he should be from the place where the state of calamity is required. So first, negotiate only with one has already an experience transacting business with your LGU, and he must be in good standing. Yun lang ang 3 mandatory requirements. It's only a preference kung taga saan siya. Preferably should come from the place where the calamity is declared. Magkano? 15%. I repeat, infrastructure PD 1594, 15%. It's reiterated in 9184, and now it's extended to goods during a state of calamity, 15%. But there is another one. Due to industry practice, we allow also advance payment of 50% due to industry practice. For example, yung hotels, accommodation, or venue, yung ganun. However, in the case of procurement sa vaccine, wala nang ganon-ganon. In fact, at the early stage of the pandemic, I was wondering, bakit meron tayong different brands of vaccine? Mayroong Pfizer, mayroong Moderna, mayroong AstraZeneca, mayroong Sinovac, Sinopharm, etc. The reason behind pala is no supplier can give the total needs of one country. And we cannot compete with developed countries because they're willing to pay in full. Kaya nga, binigay ito na exception to the rule. Na advance payment may be made to the full cost of our procurement if required by the manufacturer. So, do you understand what I mean? So it means yung advance payment of 15%, 15% or 50% is not applicable dito sa vaccine. Okay. And we are required, the DOH and the NTF, they are required to make the necessary posting within 30 days after the execution, indicating the ABC, the name and details of procured vaccines, the name of supplier, amount of advance payment, and amount of awarded contract. It should be in the GPPB online portal and conspicuous. Okay. Next is takeover of contracts. The next procurement is takeover of contracts. Next slide, please. Applicable to 3 goods, infrastructure, and consulting services. Next slide. Okay. Next slide. Okay. In the takeover of contracts, ibig sabihin, mayroon na tayong, we have already a winning bidder. The question is, what if you have a problem with a winning bidder? Biglang nawala. So what will we do as BAC? It says that the BAC shall post-qualify and negotiate starting the second LCV. With the second LCV at the same price. What if he will refuse? Negotiate with the third lowest, also at the same price. What if the second and the third will all refuse? So you are advised to proceed inviting a short list of at least 3 suppliers and require them to submit the bids and negotiate starting the LCV or CRB. Then resort to any other appropriate alternative methods of procurement. These are, next slide. These are the documentary requirements. Hello, next slide. Documentary requirements. Okay, so you read it for yourself. It's there. We will not proceed to adjacent or contiguous. In adjacent contiguous, which is part of negotiated, next slide. Adjacent or contiguous, part of negotiated procurement. The background is the subject contract is adjacent or contiguous to an ongoing civil work or consulting services where contractor or consultants have unique experience and expertise to deliver required service. Meaning, there is no adjacent or contiguous contract to speak of if the civil work or the consulting services is no longer ongoing. So it means we can have only negotiated procurement adjacent or contiguous if the project, the main project is still ongoing. So these are the conditions. Original contract or the original is the result of competitive bidding. Subject contract, which is the adjacent or contiguous, has similar or related scopes of work. For example, road, one at the left side, one at the right side, but in between there is an unfinished portion. If both the left and the right sides are already complete, there can be no adjacent or contiguous, one of which should be continuing before we can negotiate for adjacent or contiguous. And that one, the additional one that will bridge, that will complete the gap, should be within the contracting capacity of the contractor. And please refer to the documentary requirements for infrastructure. In addition, the prices should be same or lower than the original contract. Kung original contract is 500,000, it couldn't be that you should have a contract for contiguous or adjacent, which is more than 100,000. Same prices or lower, ABC of contiguous or adjacent contract involved does not exceed the contract amount. So, ibig sabihin, pwede, kasi sabi dito, does not exceed, pwede hanggang 500,000. Dapat, yung contractor na yan of the original contract should have no negative slippage during the time of negotiation. And sabi ko kanina at the start, no, there can be no negotiation kung tapos na yung yung idudugtong mo na project, but there can be negotiations only before the expiry of the contract. Okay. Then we'll proceed to agency to agency. Ano itong agency to agency? One common question that I normally ask to the participants. Were you asked by your auditor, how come you're procuring common use supplies at procurement service? If you will be asked, try to enumerate what are the modes of procurement. The general rule is competitive bidding. The alternative modes, these are the following. In addition to the competitive bidding, we have limited source bidding, we have negotiated procurement, we have direct contracting, we have shopping, and negotiated procurement. Question, mayroon ba kayong naririnig procurement service? Wala. So what then is your legal basis for procurement, for procuring common use supplies at PS? Then you can easily say that we are using alternative method of procurement agency to agency. Bakit? In the agency to agency, procurement service was created by LOI 755 with the purpose that it will undertake bulk purchase of common use supplies for all government instrumentalities for a fee, not for free. For a fee, not for profit, but to handle only for handling and freight. Kaya nga, we are mandatorily required to purchase at procurement service common use supplies. In like manner, in the government bureaucracy, the agency which is recognized as the authority insofar as construction of infrastructure, and that is DPWH. Kaya nga, if you want to construct something and you don't have an engineer, you go to DPWH, you can have an A2A, but these are the conditions. You should justify first why you should enter into A2A with DPWH, for example, because it is more efficient and economical to the LGU. Then that DPWH has the absorptive capacity to undertake the project, meaning it will not sacrifice accomplishing its targets and goals just to accommodate your request. And most importantly, do not buy tools for that project. See to it that the servicing agency owns or has access to necessary tools and equipment required for the project. That is only an example, DPWH, but you can have also other agencies. For example, TESDA, or you can have an ISSUC who is an expert in IT. You can have also a MOA or an MOU. Okay, what are the procedural guidelines? As usual, the trigger is the end user. Justify to the back that you should resort to A2A to achieve efficient and economical procurement to the government. Second, as an end user, you should secure a certificate from the relevant officer of the servicing agency that the latter complies with the conditions. Yung mga sinasabi natin kanina, what are the conditions? Absorptive capacity, they have their own tools, or they have access to tools. Third, the BAC shall issue a resolution recommending the use of A2A to the HOPE, and the HOPE If he will approve, will enter into a MOA with the servicing agency based on the recommendation by the BAC. Okay, so yun ang A to A. Another one under negotiated procurement is CISAW ETM. Ano nang CISAW ETM? Scientific, scholarly, or artistic work, exclusive technology and media services. Applicable to the three goods, infra, and consulting services. This is a new provision in the 2016 revised IRR. Sabi namin mga recognized speakers, gone are the days when we were swarmed with questions. Paano kami during the barangay, araw ng munisipyo, paano kami mag-hire kay Sarah Hieronimo, or yung mga dancers, mga BTS, etc. Ngayon, we're very happy. It's now here. And for issue 3, presidents will ask, what is our legal basis if we will subscribe to scholarly journals and researches from international universities so that we can also be at par with them? O, nandito na. Okay. So, even for other national government agencies, even in our case, how can we advertise some of our programs and projects? Ito, pupasok dito. Anong sabi dito? Work of art, commission work, or services of an artist for specific skills. Singer, okay. Hindi mo na kailangan mag-public bidding. Hindi ka na kailangan ng RFQ. Singer, performer, poet, painter, sculptor. Take the case of Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Namimili sila ng valued paintings. So, negotiated procurement is CISAW ETMs. For state colleges, they can already subscribe scholarly work or research, even for judiciary if they want also legal services. Highly specialized life-saving medical equipment as certified by DOH. Very timely during the COVID-19. So, we have mga intubation, mga life-saving equipment, kung ano-ano na lang. So, hindi na kailangan RFQ, hindi na kailangan public bidding, negotiated procurement in the interest to save life. Okay. Then we have scientific, technical, economic, business, trade, or legal journal, magazine subscription, or exclusive statistical publications and references. For example, PSA. If they want to learn also about the statistics or other data or types of analysis from different countries, okay, they can already invoke negotiated procurement CISAW ETM. Media documentation. Pay your taxes promptly. Okay, that's from BIR. Hugas, iwas, mask. Oh, that's from DOH. It's more fun in the Philippines. That's Department of Tourism. Ang dami pa, marami pa. So at least they can appropriately use this negotiated procurement CISAW ETM without so much without hassle. Then construction and installation of infrastructure facility where the material, equipment, and technology under a proprietary right can only be obtained from the same contractor. Okay, this is my favorite example. There is now a machine which is responsible for early detection of cancer. But that machine should not be bought separately from another contractor who will construct. Dapat yung machine na yan, ang supplier na yan, should be the same supplier that will provide for the infrastructure because there is a prescribed design. And aside from that, after the installation, it will take months and even years to commission, to test one, and to train the staff. In fact, they will hire physicists to compute accurately which part of your body should be where the cancer exists. So yun. So as far as budgeting is concerned, I think that is one thing I missed because we thought that the procurement of equipment, the procurement of infrastructure, as well as yung installation can be done separately. Yun pala, it should be only one because under a proprietary right can only be obtained from the same contractor. Okay, let's have the next slide, which shows the documentary requirements. Documentary requirements. Okay, the next slide is, okay, The procedural guidelines, next slide, please. So you, instead of undertaking market survey, update market survey by end user to justification, then negotiate with supplier or contractor, then award of contract. Next slide. Next slide. The next negotiated procurement is highly technical consultants. This is also a new provision. This was a problem before. Why? We cannot find an appropriate AMP when a newly elected mayor or newly elected local chief executive will hire somebody to shadow the organic personnel with permanent appointment. So, anong nangyari? They would hire somebody in the guise of a consultant. Wala naman tayong enough enough legal basis to substantiate it. But with this one being introduced, SWAC na SWAC. So it refers to consultancy contract involving an individual contract consultant, who is found to be legally, technically, and financially capable after negotiation. So this refers to individual consultant. These are the conditions. The work involves highly confidential and proprietary, or primarily confidential or policy determining, where trust and confidence are the primary consideration. So swak na swak sa gusto talaga ng mga LCA. Term is at the most 6 months, renewable at the option of the appointing hope, but in no case to exceed the term of the latter. So this is applicable only to consulting services. Next slide. These are the following documentary requirements. Okay, documentary requirements. Okay, so we will now, hello. Can we proceed to small value procurement? Small value procurement. Okay, the small value procurement is applicable to goods, infra, and consulting services. Small value procurement, take note, is not covered by Section 52. Do you still remember shopping? Meron tong shopping A at saka shopping B. Ano yung shopping A? Review, unforeseen contingency, it needs immediate action, threshold is 200,000. Shopping B, common use supplies, which are repetitively used in the daily operations of your organization, plus included in the e-catalog. In both cases, wala siya dito sa small value procurement. So what then is the difference between Section 52 and small value procurement? The small value procurement pertains to non-common use supplies, such as lechon. Sa LGU, if you have visitors, common na mag-lechon. Walang lechon doon. If you want, during your araw ng munisipyo, you want sports fest, you cannot buy sports equipment from PS. So, small value procurement yan. You want to have your own band, you cannot have also your musical instruments bought at procurement service because that is not common use supply. Drugs and medicines, wala din. If there are small or minor repairs in your LGU, if you want to buy kilos only of nails, sheets of galvanized iron, or a few bags of cement, that belongs to small value procurement. But the threshold is still 1 million. Okay, my dear participants, we have already 1 unforeseen contingency, shopping A. We have 3 we have common use supplies, that is shopping B. Now we have a small value procurement, which is 3-1. Pakisulat, pakisuwat to no. 3-1, which means you float 3 RFQs and retrieval of 1 is more than enough. Okay. So tama ba? Okay, so the procedures, you prepare the RFQ, at least 3, but retrieval of 1 would be enough. Okay, for procurement with ABC, na sinasabi ko kanina, you start with a preposition of above 50,000 shall be posted in PhilJeps. Kung above 50,000 lang but 50,000 and below doesn't have to be posted in PhilJeps, as well as in the website and on the conspicuous way. Ito yung sa last yung sinasabi ko, 3-1. Retrieval of 1 is more than enough. Okay, for the threshold you have there, you can just read it for yourself, but the barangay's maximum is 50,000. Okay, next is procedural guidelines, very easy. So small value procurement, prepare the RFQ, post in PhilJeps if it is above 50,000, but pag 50,000 and below, you don't have to post that. Kung mag-post man kayo at least 3 calendar days, send to at least 3 suppliers. The retrieval of 1 is more than enough. Prepare abstract, then award to LCB or HRB. We have the documentary requirements. Hello, documentary requirements. Okay. The next is list of real property under negotiated procurement. Let me define first the real property and venue. Real property refers to the soil or land where a building is erected or built. Okay. Paki-change ng slide. Then, so yun ang real property. So, most LGUs, you don't rent. The national government agencies, they rent. But very applicable sa atin yung venue. If you conduct trainings, anong definition ng venue? Per R 9194, it states it refers to conference halls, seminar halls, training, etc., and similar areas where trainings are to be attended by government officials and employees. So it's official in nature. Anong sabi dito? Okay, just in case you're renting a building or a space, the LGU, the end user, shall resort to lease real property or venue, which is more efficient and economical. You should conduct cost-benefit analysis. And to guide you more, I understand you have already standard parameters in your LGU. You can visit Appendix B of Annex H, and there is a long list of technical specifications that will help you decide which between or among the suppliers where you can achieve a more economical and efficient procurement. What are the procedural guidelines? 1, you should invite at least 3, but receipt of 1 quotation is enough. So if you receive only 1, then proceed with the evaluation. Okay. Now the problem is where to enter into contract, publicly owned or privately owned. It depends. If both are of equal footing, syempre, doon tayo sa public. But based on your parameters, if you think, next slide na, list of real property na tayo. If you think mas mura doon sa publicly owned, but it's located in the interior part of the municipality, nandoon sa top of the hill. Tapos yung mga amenities niya, walang microphone na marami, yung CR niya, kulang-kulang, the supply of water is intermittent, the internet is intermittent compared to those owned by the private, then you have to, by all means, you choose the one that is responsive to your needs. But even if it's a privately owned, conduct also your own evaluation. Oh, how about the lighting, the ventilation? How about the door? Is the door swing? Kasi ang VBOX at saka yung BFP, they now encourage or mandatory na dapat yung mga doors natin should be swing inside and outside so that in case of emergency, we can immediately go out of the building. And check also how many doors do you have in a conference hall. Baka isa lang, entrance, exit, same room. That is not good. Dapat isang entrance, isang exit. How about the chairs? How about the tables. It is designed for dining, or is it designed for training? So there are many things. What are the freebies? Free whiteboard and whiteboard marker, free LCD. How about the microphone? Is it audible to all or what? Okay. So when you are renting a space before the expiration of the contract, you make the lessor aware that we in the government, we are conscious also of our cost. So we want to evaluate how effective are they. Ano ba, pag masira ang elevator, rini-repair ba nila? Pag nag-stock up yung CR, do they respond immediately? Pag nasira yung light, yung mga ganun. These are many things that you should consider when you conduct cost-benefit analysis. Okay, we have the list of documentary requirements. And now we'll proceed to okay, can we proceed to direct retail purchase of oil? The last one. Direct purchase. Ito na ba yun? Direct purchase of petroleum fuel, oil, and lubricant. Paul. Hello. Ito na. Okay. Okay. So this is a new provision. Since 2003 until October 27, 2016, the guidelines for the purchase of Paul was only for bulk purchase. So in short, almost all agencies just bought fuel for the consumption of our vehicles and for our generators na walang guidelines. So we're very happy that in 2016, at least na-address na yung karamihan ng issues ng lahat ng mga agencies. Ano yon? This one. We are now allowed to have a direct retail purchase of Paul, fuel, and oil lubricants. Okay. Mayroon dito sa baba, ha? Direct retail purchase of Paul and airline tickets may be made by end users from identified direct suppliers or service providers. Okay. Ito na, yung kanina sa question number 1. The back and the hope shall delegate to specific officials, personnel committee or office in the PA, the conduct of the direct retail purchase. Dapat lang. Papuntahin ka sa Maynila, out of town si Hope. Out of town man yung si Back. So, dapat mayroong delegation. Okay. Can we proceed to the next slide? Okay. This is all about the direct retail purchase of Paul products and airline tickets. For Paul, ang sinabi dito, we have to include that in the APP to consider or to include foreseeable emergencies. And we are now allowed to undertake direct purchase from any available, take note, available retailers, dealers, or gas stations at retail pump price. This is very important. Retailers, dealers, gas stations at retail pump price. And we have to see to it that the Paul procurement must be intended only for official government vehicles and equipment. Another very important note, for immediate consumption. No stocking, but for immediate consumption. Kasi maraming mangyayari kung mayroon kayong stock, baka prone to fire, or baka dadali ng iba, or it will be for sale. Hindi natin alam. Okay. So for official government vehicles and equipment, kung mayroon kayong generator, for immediate consumption. Payment, another welcome provision is payment may be made through cash advance, care of your cashier, kung mayroong pera, and care of your bulsa, pocket. Reimbursement, you can have it reimbursed, or other allowable payment modalities. For example, you are told, okay, you go to attend this meeting in another municipality or in the province. Okay, you can go there, spend your own money, and have it reimbursed when you come back. In like manner, for the airline tickets, we are now also allowed to have a direct purchase of airline tickets for official travels within the fiscal year. Same shall be reflected in the APP to include also foreseeable emergencies. Direct purchase is now allowed. Noon kasi, kanya-kanya tayo doon sa may agency, kung saan-saan tayo bumibili, no? Direct purchase must be made. Take note of this one. Hindi katulad yung sa poll from available retailers provided it is within the retail pump price. Dito ang sinabi, from any commercial airline at fairly reasonable rate. So it means, makabili ka lang doon sa office ng PAL, Philippine Airlines, Cebu Pacific at saka AirAsia. Wala ng agency na agency. And it shall be in accordance with the existing rules and regulations applicable only to local and foreign travels of government personnel. Okay. Okay, next. Hindi na ako magdi-discuss ng alternative documentary requirements kasi kasali na dyan yung sa first day. I will discuss fast about the United Nations. Back muna doon sa defense. Defense, saan ba yung sa defense? Nandyan ka sa defense. Okay. So sabihin na lang natin yung sa Defense Cooperation Agreement. Okay. DCA. Yung sa Defense Cooperation Agreement, I will discuss this together with yung kasunod na defense inventory items. Mayroon tayong AFP Modernization Program approved by the President of the Philippines. In that AFP Modernization Program, the President of the Philippines has already delegated to the Secretary of DND to negotiate with an entity of another country with which the Philippines has a defense cooperation agreement. So foremost, the Secretary of DND should have in mind the interest of the country. That is to protect the interest of the country, and should see to it that the expertise and capability required is not available in the Philippines. Okay. Same with the defense inventory-based items. Almost the same. And I would say that a good example of inventory-based items is bullet. No manufacturer in the Philippines can produce a quality bullet based on the standard of DND. So there were years we bought it from Bosnia. Bosnia, because that's the only country that produces based on our specifications. Okay. And here, the prospective bidders shall provide performance security. Okay, I will discuss next the NGO participation. NGO participation. So, pwede sa NGO na tayo. Okay. This is a real property. NGO participation. Okay. NGO participation is applicable to goods, infra, and consulting services. There are instances when the appropriation law, in your case, in the ordinance, you intentionally earmark an amount that will be contracted to NGOs. So the procuring entity, the LGU, has the option to conduct it by means of public bidding or enter a MOA with an NGO. Question, Sino ang pwede sasali? We have to see to it, we have to check and validate whether the participating NGO is registered with SEC. Not just any NGO claims to be an NGO, but it should be registered with SEC. And a cooperative also can also participate here. And in that case, it should be registered with CDA. Okay, what are the guidelines? It shall invite 3 prospective NGOs to submit sealed price quotations upon the determination of LCB, and after submission and evaluation of eligibility, PE shall enter a MOA with an eligible NGO. Then we have the community participation. More or less the same with NGO, except that there is a different purpose for community participation. An LGO, for example, wants to have a multiplier effect to increase its income locally, aside from IRA. So it will involve a group of people in a community, for example, out of school youth or mothers who are full-time at home. They want to train them in basket making, for example, or any other project that will in turn generate income for the respective family. So this is really designed for local communities in the delivery of goods. It can include non-consulting service and simple infrastructure. But it has to see to it that the project is sustainable in order to achieve certain specific social activities. For example, okay, you train the out of school youth so that there will be no drug addicts or minimize the drug addicts, and at the same time, the mothers so that they can help in the economy of your municipality. You can have additional references cited there. And finally, you have the United Nations applicable to 3. And here, very applicable these days. When the COVAX facility sold few or meager amount of vaccines to different countries. So it's a specialized types of products where suppliers are limited. So yun lang. So negotiated procurement ang gagamitin natin. Okay. So I think substantially I have discussed the negotiated procurement and the other 4 alternative methods of procurement. And before I will make myself available for ready and for questions and answer pala, I would like to share what Mahatma Gandhi has told us. According to him, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. So I know many of you, even in listening to lectures, sometimes we become apathetic, or during procurement, we don't want to be part of the procurement team. Please don't do that, because who else will be an effective procurement team member if you will give up or you will resign from your post? Remember, you should take pride as part of the procurement team, because as the law itself says, only those people with unquestionable integrity and with procurement proficiency can be designated. So congratulations to all of you for finishing the 4th day. But before we totally finish the 4th day, I am now available for question and answer. Hello, Malu.
Hi, ma'am. Good morning po. So, ulit. So, now we're back. Pero before, ma'am, tayo let's have a last knowledge check po.
Okay.
Apo. Before po tayo, we proceed to the open forum. So, kindly flash the last knowledge check question. All right. The last question, ma'am, is, in small value procurement, the omnibus sworn statement shall be required only for procurement projects with ABC above 50,000. Is it A, true, or B, false? So maybe ask again our Zoom participants. to choose your answer in the Zoom poll question, Zoom poll options. Okay, so parang as of now, majority is false. So we have 44% participated in the Zoom. How about the others po? Ayan, habol ng iba. 61%, 64%. Ayan, parang 50-50 na, nalilito na yata sila. Okay? So we're closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ayan. So, ma'am, as of the moment po, our Zoom participants choose, with 57%, they choose letter B, false. Is this the correct answer po?
And the correct answer is true. In
Ayan,
small
so parang
value
nalito na
procurement,
naman sila.
the omnibus warrant statement shall be required only for procurement projects with ABC above 50,000. So, ibig sabihin, pag 50,000 and below, walang OSS. Do you still remember? Sinabi ko na, yung above 50,000, yun ang kailangan ng posting. Yung 50,000 and below, hindi na kailangan. So, same with OSS. Omnibus warrant statement shall be required only for above 50,000. True.
All right. So congratulations po for those who got the correct answer. Thank you, ma'am, for that clarification. And speaking pala, ma'am, of clarifications, we received a direct message request po pala before we dive into the open forum segment. This is regarding po the topic on the repeat order, particularly on the procurement of catering services and list of venue. So they are requesting po sana for a further discussion on this portion po.
List of venues. Repeat order po on sample nyo sa catering services. Okay. So, from the participant, ito ba? Catering services. Yung sinasabi natin na catering services, diba, it shall be divisible sa 4. At sabi natin na normally, pag divisible ng 4, pwede siya. So in catering services, our consideration is the number of packs.
Opo. So I hope na-clarify na po yung ating questions on that. For any questions po?
Meron pa dito continue. List of venue. What is the question about the list of venue?
Actually, ma'am, ang pinakang questions na po is regarding po dun sa parang scope and limitations po nung catering service as to the repeat order po. Parang ganun po yung context ng questions.
Pero mayroon, okay. Parang dinugtong niya lang yung list of venue.
Opo. Kung pwede daw po ba ang repeat order dun sa list of venue at saka sa catering services. Parang ganun po.
Okay. Yung catering services, okay. I think I should have expounded it kanina. Yung uso noon, pag mag-list of venue ka, iba. Yung catering services, iba, di ba? Ganon. Pero ang uso ngayon, what is in the industry is package na yan. Kung mayroon kang catering, libre na yung venue, libre na yung accommodation. Yung ganon. So, ibig sabihin, kung mag-repeat order ka, for example, repeat order, kasi yung subject niya, question. Kung mag-repeat order ka, I think you have to situate, ano ba ito? Ano ba ang question? Package ba yan siya or iba't iba? Kasi yung catering na sinasabi ko kanina, kung in-house training, na wala kayong list of venue kasi nasa inyo lang. Pero kung sa outside, ang uso ngayon, talagang package. Kasama na yung catering. Ang catering is the determining point, but that would include free na yung venue, free na yung accommodation. So if the determining factor is catering and it is divisible, so Pwede rin, repeat order.
Opo. Actually, ma'am, parang inad din po dun sa questions pala is, we are made to understand that repeat order is applicable only to tangible goods, only items like supplies, materials, and equipments, and that are countable, divisible, and counting of at least 4 units. Yun po yung dinagdag po pala, ma'am. Question.
Okay, okay. Okay. Divisible. At saka, makikita. Mayroon tayong bagong kuan. Okay. We'll talk it over later. Okay.
Sure, ma'am. Opo. So, hold muna po na natin yung
Okay.
yung question na yan.
Okay.
Pero at this moment, ma'am, allow me to congratulate our participants na nandito pa kahit medyo mahaba yung ating naging discussions. Thank you so much, Ma'am Anne, for facilitating a very
You're welcome,
informative
Malo.
and comprehensive discussion on alternative methods of procurement. So if
Thank
you
you,
still
Malo.
have questions, thank you po, ma'am. So if you still have questions on the topic presented by Ma'am Anne, please do drop them at the Zoom chat box. For our Facebook Live viewers, feel free to post your questions in the comment section so we can also include them po during our open forum. May we also remind our winners for the special tokens po to please check your messages, and our event secretariat will contact you on how to claim your prizes. And at this point po, we will be having the open forum. Please note that our technical team has gathered your questions in the Zoom chat box and Facebook comment section. So please be advised po that only questions related to the learning session shall be accommodated by the research speaker during this open forum. So I think, ma'am, we're ready na rin po for the list of questions. Actually, ma'am, I think we have 4 questions on deck po.
Sige.
Okay. The question is, ano po yung, okay, sorry ma'am. It's the second question, medyo na-advance lang. For the first question, good day ma'am. In the procurement of goods wherein the project proposal includes lodging, meals and snacks, supplies and materials amounting to 65,000, wherein the lodging amounted to 15,000, meals and snacks amounted to 30,000, and the supplies and materials amount to 20,000. Is it allowed not to publish in the build-ups and float a request for quotation for each group of items to be procured?
Okay. So firstly, I would like to ask the one who raised that question, how does it appear in the appropriations ordinance? Individually, so yung first tanong ko. Second tanong is, how does it appear in your invitation to bid? Is it lot or individual with ABC?
Alright. So siguro yun muna. Actually, ma'am, nandito sa Zoom o yung ating, I think since we have enough time, we can siguro ask the particular participants po para at least matulungan din natin. Baka currently ito yung na-encounter po nila.
Okay.
Okay, so parang nahiya din po ma'am yung ating participants. Pero nag-post naman po siya.
Sabihin mo na huwag mahiya kasi hindi tayo nagkikita. Bisaya siya, is from Bisaya.
Pero nag-post po ma'am, I think si Ma'am Lydia po, as 1 training proposal and 1 purchase request daw po.
Hindi ang tanong ko kung how does it appear? Taga saan siya? Kasi Bisaya ako pag Bisaya siya. Taga saan siya?
The participant came from MLGU Banawe, Ifugao po.
Okay. What's the first name? Sino yung
si Ma'am Lydia po.
Lydia.
Lydia
Okay.
Baton. Opo.
Lydia.
Lydia, ma'am.
Lydia. Ma'am Lydia, ano yung ano ang pag-appear doon sa appropriations ordinance ng mga items na sinasabi mo? Lump sum lang or mayroong individual ABC?
May we request, Ma'am Lydia po, kahit to open your microphone lang, ma'am, just to clarify the questions being asked by Ma'am Anne.
Nahihiya siya. Mag-asam.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes,
Siguro,
ma'am.
let's move on muna to the second questions po.
Okay, okay.
While waiting for the clarifications po from our one of the participants.
Sige. Ano yung second question? Pakibasa lang malo kasi.
Sabi ma'am, ma'am, sorry ma'am, wag muna tayong pala. Nag-chat na po si Ma'am Nida. Sorry daw po, kasi wala siyang microphone and camera sa laptop. So, ang sinabi na lang po niya is lump sum as training po, yung pagka-present nung nung project.
Alam mo ma'am, Lead, mayroon tayong rules sa budgeting na dapat in budgeting, there should already be the details. So kahit sasabihin natin training lang nakalagay, but it should be supported with the details kasi mayroong, kaya nga yung, it was declared by the Supreme Court, yung PDAP, Priority Development Assistance Fund, naging lump sum, Disbursement Acceleration Program, lump sum din. Bakit? Kasi ang sa ruling nila sinabi, post-enactment is unconstitutional, meaning do not include a lump sum amount in your budget and you will come up with the details only after it is approved. Because it can be a subject also of transferring or making it different from the original intention. Let's assume na yung lump sum, mag-assume na lang tayo, Ma'am Lids, yung lump sum is intended for one training. No? Ma'am Lids? Can you hear me? Hello?
I think, ma'am, clear naman po kayo, ma'am.
Okay. So, if we will assume that yung lump sum, yun ang details intended for one training. Sabihin na natin isang training. Tapos mayroong bawat component, mayroong ABC. Siguro it's very unlikely na iba yung sa pagkain, iba yung sa accommodation, iba yung sa mga supplies and materials. Kasi sa sinabi ko na, ang uso ngayon ay package and the determining factor is per pax. Kung nandoon kayo sa hotel. Pero kung in-house yung training nyo, it's very possible that in your RFQ, parang individual yung ABC nyo. Mahirap pag hindi kami magka-interact, Malu. Siguro, Malu, we can defer it and you let her call me up after the training kasi wala akong interaction sa kanya, so baka yung masasabi ko not in accordance with what she meant.
All right, ma'am. Okay po. So let's proceed to the second question. The question, ma'am, is, ano po yung halimbawa ng unwarranted resort to alternative methods of procurement?
Ano yun? Anong halimbawa ng ano yun, Malu? Hindi ko marinig.
The question, ma'am, is, ano po yung halimbawa ng unwarranted resort to alternative methods of procurement?
Pwede makausap ko rin yung nagtanong upang baka mayroon siyang specific na kuan. So, para sa akin para sa akin.
Siguro, ma'am, yung pinakang question po dito is, ano po ba yung mga parang scenario na hindi dapat gawin na parang mag-alternative methods ka na lang para to escape lang yung ating public bidding. Parang mga ganun po siguro.
Okay. For example, splitting of the contract. Isa yun. One example na di dapat mag-alternative method procurement despite that you have available funds and that would qualify, for example, above 1 million. Automatically, that should be up for competitive bidding except nung sa negotiated procurement na yung sinasabi natin kanina, yung lease of venue, lease of real property, yung mga ganon. So, ibig sabihin, if the purpose of splitting of the contracts is to avoid competitive bidding per RA 9184, then it's not good to resort to alternative method of procurement.
Opo. Siguro I think ma'am medyo related yung ano, although hindi to kasama siguro sa deck ma'am, kasi kakapost lang po ng one of our participants. Medyo related siguro tong question ma'am, dun sa question na number 2 na to. Kasi ang tanong po ni Ma'am Cecil po from Davao del Sur is, ma'am, ask lang po if you have 5 million appropriation, tapos we divide it into 4 quarters dahil magdepende sa cash forecast, splitting po ba ito? Parang ganun.
Ay, okay. So
Siguro
it's about,
parang ganito rin po yung number.
okay. Hindi, yun ang diferensya ng kuan. Diferensya ng national at saka local. Kasi kung meron na silang appropriations, it doesn't mean na 1:1 talaga na meron ng available cash. Pero kahit ganun, ma'am, splitting of the contracts pa rin if you chop that. Ibig sabihin, hinihiwalay nyo yung kuan, 1 million or 1.2, 0.5, another 1 million. That is splitting of the contracts if you have an appropriations of 5 million. So if I were you, dapat competitive bidding yan. Why? Whether you like it or not, when you prepare the budget, Ma'am Cecil, are you the budget officer? When you prepare the budget, you have to look at the projected receipts, income and borrowings versus estimated expenditure. So ibig sabihin, when you propose that and finally it was carried, there was already analysis of the resources that would flow into the coffers of the LGU. So if the intention is just raising cash, you can defer. After all, when you bid it at 5 million, it will not automatically be paid one shot. It will be based on billing system. Hello, Ma'am
Alright, I
Cecil.
hope yes, ma'am.
Bakit ba ngayon ang participants walang mga microphone? Sil, sulti Sil, kay Bisaya mo ka Sil. Wala.
Opo, sorry ma'am for that. I think yung iba po kasi is medyo mahihayin and some others naman po talagang may problem or technical difficulty sa ginagamit po nilang equipment in this online training.
Tama, kasi kahit ako nga dito po, minsan na-cut off. Okay, so
Opo,
next.
kasi marami mong sabay-sabay na online, so most likely affected talaga yung ating mga internet connections sa lahat ng area, ma'am. Opo.
Okay.
So I hope clear na po yung ating query on that particular provision. So let's proceed to the next question. The third question, ma'am, is sa negotiated procurement po, pwede po bang RAD type yung PhilJeps membership namin?
Red. Pwede yun, do you still remember yung kung natin pangalawa yata yun na slide? Yung red, kung mag-participate lang kayo, hindi kung kayo, it should be the seller. Yung sinasabi natin, pwede ang red only for those AMPs where only the PhilJeps registration number is allowed. Do you still remember what are those? Yung allowed ng kuan, yung sa PhilJeps registration number, yun lang ang pwede. Pero yung sa iba, hindi talaga. Okay, ano yung pwede? Ang nasabi dito, kung direct contracting, shopping, tapos yung negotiated procurement ng takeover of contracts, small value procurement, lease of real properties, and CISA team and highly technical consultants. Only the PhilJeps registration number is a condition precedent for award. Other than this, hindi na kung Field Jeeps registration number lang. Bakit sinasabi ko nga Field Jeeps registration number? Kasi itong Field Jeeps registration number, yun lang ang available sa read-only for red members. But if you are, or I mean, if the supplier is a platinum member or a blue member, he can still produce the Field Jeeps registration number. Kasi mas higher yung ano niya, mga benefits.
Thank you on that, ma'am. I think our participants may also refer to the Annex H of our revised 2016 IR para makita niyo din po yung mga documentary requirements for negotiated procurement natin. All right, so let's proceed na po to the next and last question. For the last question, ma'am, advantageous to the government, lagi po bang lowest bidder?
Ay, okay, thank you for that question. Very interesting question. The answer is no. Why no? I think you were just through with the discussion of your standard procedures on competitive bidding. Di ba mayroong standard procedures on competitive bidding? Kahit lowest calculated bid na siya, there is still one meticulous process that will be undertaken by BAC, and that is the post-qualification. Anong gagawin sa post-qualification? So, to check the veracity of the documents, the authenticity of the documents, whether the information are true, and whether the technical specifications conform with the papers and information that he submitted earlier. What if siya yung lowest calculated bid, LCB? Siya yung LCB. Pero nang pinuntahan nyo, walang kakayahan siya in terms of manufacturing facilities, for example, or it doesn't have motor vehicles that will deliver the goods that you want to buy from him. So, he's post-disqualified. Or, sasabihin man natin, very classic example, 500, sabihin natin, 500 mg ng paracetamol. So, you have, yung sinabi nyo, in blister form. Ang binigay, lowest calculated bid siya, nang tinignan nyo sa post-qualification, in bottle siya. Sa botilya, sa bote. So, it means not responsive. Kahit siya yung lowest calculated bid, hindi naman siya considered as lowest calculated unresponsive bid. So, ibig sabihin, it's not automatic na kung kayo ang lowest bid, automatic kayong maging winner. Dapat, you should be the lowest calculated responsive bid. And I would like to add, I emphasized that in my early lecture, that there is now a 360 degrees change from the minimum requirements to necessary requirements by the end user. Kaya nga, I always emphasize, kahit hindi ako sa procurement planning, it's very important that you should take seriously procurement planning with premeditation. Why? Because if you just do it as if nothing, as if copy-paste, as if delegate it only to 1 or 2 persons to prepare the APP, you will end up with a type of item or equipment that you do not want. That is why the participation of end user in procurement planning is crucial. After all, it will come back to you. It will come back to you. Kung ano yung request nyo, if you did not take it seriously, siyempre, bibigyan kayo ng medyo wala. But if you do it seriously, and procurement, kaya I always say, if you undertake procurement planning process with premeditation, and the resultant document is an approved APP, a well-laid annual procurement plan, it means the procurement procedures will just follow smoothly. Why? The prices, the technical specifications are already spelled out in the APP. So it's not true. It's not true na sa gobyerno, yung pinakamura, yun ang winning bidder because of post-qualification, which the BAC, with the assistance of TWG, will have to undertake. Mayroon na nga, pero yung iba, post-disqualified. Post-disqualified sila kasi they're very good only in documents, very good only in sample, but when you post-qualify, pinuntahan nyo, nako, hindi pa sa post-disqualified. Okay, have I answered that question?
All right. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that clarification. And that concludes the open forum. But if you have more questions po, you may still ask our resource speaker even after this webinar. Visiting slido.com. All you have to do is, sige po, ma'am.
Malo, you can give my cell phone number to Ma'am Lydia so that we can talk to each other and clarify kung anong ibig sabihin niya, ha?
Sure, ma'am, we can arrange that offline, ma'am. Okay? So again, if you have questions po, all you have to do is to just type in the event code hashtag Government Procurement PH, to which the GPPBTSO will answer through an issuance or through FAQs. With that, we would like to thank our resource speaker, Ma'am Annabel M. Atilio, for graciously accepting our invitation to be part of this online training. But before that, as our session ends, let me provide...
Can I thank you also? I would like to thank you also for a very high energy facilitator. Thank you very much.
No worries, ma'am. It's my pleasure, ma'am. All right. So again, for the synthesis of our today's session, let me provide you let me have our recap po. Today, we had an entire session on alternative methods of procurement, wherein we are able to identify and depreciate the various alternative methods of procurement. We also highlighted the basic principles and the appropriate use of such alternative methods of procurement based on the prescribed conditions, procedures, and requirements. Also, we had an in-depth discussion on the different requirements in conducting this kind of negotiated procurement. Again, today's session is led by none other than Ma'am Annabel M. Atilio. So thank you so much, ma'am, for accommodating again us. But at this point, allow me to make a few final reminders. After the end of the program, participants are likewise reminded to evaluate the training activity and resource speakers through Google Form. The link will be shared to you by our event secretariat. Rest assured that all the information gathered for this online training shall be treated with utmost confidentiality, consistent with the provisions of the Data Privacy Act. And for the important reminders on our certificates of attendance shall only be issued to confirm participants who are present all throughout the 5-day activity. And for the certificate of completion, it shall only be awarded to confirm participants who successfully completed the online training, participated in the knowledge check, and complied with all the requirements. Otherwise, certificate of participation shall be furnished. And for questions and other concerns, please contact us through the email flash to your screen. We would like to thank all the LDUs for attending and participating in our 4th day of the 5th batch of MLZU online training on RA 9184. I know that you still have a great learning session tomorrow as our last session. But before saying our goodbyes, again, let's do the mandatory group photo opportunity po. May I request everyone to please open your cameras para naman po makita namin kung okay pa ba ang ating mga participants? Okay. So again, we will have 2 shots for this group opportunity. Okay. For the first shot, okay, at the count of 3, let's show your best smile po. Okay. 1, 2, 3. And for the second shot, 1, 2, and 3. All right, that concludes our fourth day po, and again, in behalf of the Capacity Development Division and GBPBTSO, thank you for actively participating in our fourth day of MLDU online training. This is your facilitator, Maluka Agbay. See you all tomorrow. Mabuhay and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you po, ma'am.